We are go for liftoff in T-minus 30.
It's the Weiliotis podcast.
I like it.
Hey everyone, it's 2022, and welcome back to the Weiliotis podcast. It's good to have you all here today. Before we jump right into everything, let me of course bring on my co-host, the great and wonderful Mikey Wheel. How you doing, my friend?
Hi, very nice to be here. Thanks for having me on the podcast. I guess as always. I don't know. It's been a while since we've done the podcast. This is our first podcast of 2022, so it feels like we're trying to get back in the swing of things, but that won't take long for us to do. We're excited. Our last episode, if you haven't heard it, episode 18, we did it with one half of Discussion Combustion. Check those guys out. We did that on Home Alone with Kevin from Discussion Combustion.
Yeah, Mr. Kevin Batstone. That was a great episode.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Awesome guest, and fun. A good final kind of episode of the year, I think.
Yep. And I don't know if we talked about it exactly on that episode, but I had the most plays for any of their podcasts, and then I was recently beaten by I think it was a meteorologist in Denver.
Yeah,
no, she was good, so definitely check out Discussion Combustion. But yeah, this is great. We have an exciting episode today. We're gonna do our normal intro and all that good stuff, but yeah, let's I guess dive right in.
Oh yes. What's that?
I was gonna say we can talk about our microphones. Clearly, we're not sponsored by them, but Tom and I just both picked up those. Blue, is Blue the brand?
Blue Yeti, I believe. Well, actually, So the one I have right now, I've actually had this one for quite a while. But it's I think maybe Blue is the actual company name, but yeah, they're the Yetis themselves. Great line of USB microphones, and Mikey, I kind of persuaded him to get one because they're easy to use and they sound great too.
Yeah, I just picked up the Nano, which I'm pretty excited about. I asked Santa Claus for a microphone stand, and then for my birthday right after Christmas, I was like, I want a new podcast mic, and I went with the Nano because one, it's cheaper, and I like cheaper, but also it was nice because you can attach it to a mic stand, and I play a little bit of music, so I think it'll be nice to still use the mic stand and attach it to that and pick up some stuff. And speaking of, if you are a musician, feel free to check out these microphones. This is what a ukulele sounds like on the Blue Yeti Nano. And I mean, we've had our same podcast for quite a while, and our same theme song since the start. I mean, we could do a newer Weiliotis theme song at some point.
Yeah, a new one for 2022.
Weiliotis podcast.
Oh, that's nice. God, maybe we should be sponsored by Blue Yeti. That'd be awesome.
After they hear this episode.
I know. Like we've been talking, playing some music already in the first couple minutes.
Getting it started. I burped in the beginning. We're really kicking this off.
Well, as you can tell by the title, obviously we're kind of doing a little retrospective, if you will, of 2021. We're the big topic today is our top 5 movies of 2021. But we're also going to kind of go over a little bit of an overview of the year in general, what we thought about the movies of this year, as well as television shows, and even talk about some future plans as well for the podcast. So with that being said, I think you want to dive right into some recent watches, any movie news you might have. What have you been watching recently?
Yeah, I'm always more about what I've been watching. So I watch a show called A Million Little Things. I think it's on NBC. Takes place in Boston. Very, very dramatic show. But it's got a guy named James Rode Rodriguez in it. He's one of the main characters in it, and he stars in the show Psych.
Oh, okay.
And I just really love him on A Million Little Things, and I pretty much ran out of shows to watch, so I started binge watching Psych. There's 8 seasons and like 2 or 3 movies out, so I've been binging that in the background. It's a fun little comedy. It was on USA or one of those. So I've been watching Psych, and then This Is Us just came back, which is great. And then my Sundays are now kind of boring again because Succession wrapped a few weeks ago. Then Curb Your Enthusiasm wrapped, and then Yellow Jackets finale was last night.
Oh, yeah.
And then Dexter wrapped too. So that's pretty much that. But,
How was
you know,
Dexter? Because I've heard nothing but praise for the new season.
it's fantastic. I don't want to give anything away about anything, but it's just fantastic. It pays its dues. It jams a lot into one season, and it's just very heavy, very fun. And I don't know. I mean, I watched the whole show. Maybe it's just been a little while, but I watched the whole show, and he seems like a little more funny this go around. Like his internal monologue, and I guess his kind of like sass and darkness and dryness is a little funnier this season.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really good. I highly recommend it, and I think it pays its homage. And it actually was filmed around here too. My friend worked on a couple days of that, and Don't Look
Oh, wow.
Up, which was
So
filmed
there-
around here.
That's right. It's crazy because you mentioned the first show you mentioned also I don't know if it's filmed in Massachusetts, but you said it takes place in Boston.
Million Little Things, yeah. So Million Little Things came out like right after This Is Us, a season after. And I think it was kind of like Modern Family in the middle, where it's like they would probably be comparable to me, but they came out one season apart, so you kind of have like a nepotism, I guess. But yeah, Million Little Things is basically Ron Livingston winds up killing himself in the first episode, and him and these 3 other guys are best friends. They all met on an elevator that crashed in Boston. They're all, diehard Bruins fans, and he kills himself in the first episode, and the whole show just kind of revolves around all of them working out their own problems, things coming to fruition, trying to move on, the grieving process, also, the bonds that tie them together. It's a very heavy show, but it's really good. It's got a great cast too.
Yeah,
all
it
around.
sounds heavy for sure. Like
Yeah.
I'll have to check it out because this year, like one of my goals, because if you've been listening to the podcast, you know that like every time we talk about TV shows, I might mention a newer show, but usually I'll just go back to Breaking Bad, and not that I wouldn't. I'm only talking about it because I've been rewatching it with my roommate, but in the past maybe month or two, I've definitely caught up on some more TV shows, but I was gonna mention how it seems like a lot more of what I've been watching seems to be taking place in New England in general, or like you were even mentioning how there's been some I feel like a lot more productions. I mean, I know Massachusetts, there is like a film scene there, but it seems like there's been more. I don't know. I've just noticed there's more productions filming there in the past few years. For sure.
I mean, I remember when I was in college, they were trying to build out Hollywood East, which didn't wind up getting, funded and working out, unfortunately. But there's so much stuff filmed around here, and then of course you have Adam Sandler too, who everything he does is filmed in New Hampshire, Massachusetts. A lot of Grown Ups is filmed on the North Shore.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, there's so much that's filmed around here. New England's
actually
just beautiful.
For grown-ups, I gotta mention that the water park scene, which is like even like on the poster and everything, that's Water Whiz, I think I want to say Bourne, Massachusetts, which is in Cape Cod, but I used to go there a lot as a kid. I got family that lives near there. Yeah, so like I remember that was like a big deal when it came out. I remember like we're like, oh my god, like all the commercials showed water, the Water Whiz like scene and everything, and yeah.
Water, and literally in the movie they wind up peeing in the pool. So a place called Water Whiz sounds like a terrible name.
It does.
It's just kind of like
now I'm
encouraging
talking about
you to
it, like
pee in
saying it out loud. I'm like, yeah, Water Whiz. That is what it's called. Yeah.
Well, we did talk about doing a movie set in a closed amusement park, so maybe you and I could base it off of that. That'd be kind of cool.
Oh yeah, true. That'd be kind of cool. Yeah, like an abandoned water park.
Yeah.
With
there is a movie that came out recently. It's called, of course, it's like a pun. It's called like Water Dark or Water Park Massacre or whatever, but it's basically like these teenagers go into a closed water park and there's like a serial killer on the loose and he's just putting like knives in between the slides and everything, and like there's one scene where they're going down it and then there's like two giant knives put in the slide and they just go like slice right through it.
That's horrifying.
It's definitely my kind of movie, I'd say. We've talked about that on the podcast. I'm more of like a Sharknado 12 than like a, black and white Oscar nominated movie kind of person. But I love recommendations. Like I was looking the other day at like Jack Frost, the horror movie. And then like,
right. Remember that.
Of course, there's Ginger Dead Man with Gary Busey. I love it because like if you look those up on your TV, it'll recommend similar movies. And there's just like so many I didn't even know were possible. There's the Zombie Aquarium movie out. There's just like, it's endless.
It's wild. And you just reminded me too, because a film series I really want to go through this year is maybe we could even do an episode or series on it, but Puppet Master, because I don't think I've seen any of them, and there's like 5 or 6 of them, and they all look wild.
I don't think I've seen them. Didn't they come out with one like 2 years ago?
Yeah, I think like literally since the first one came out in like the late 80s, early 90s, I think they've just every couple of years they've just kind of kept making new sequels. There might even be more than 6 at this point. I don't know, but
yeah,
I remember seeing like an ad for like a box set of it, and it looked fascinating, and I'm super into it. But yeah, any other recent watches? Anything else movie wise or?
Yeah, movie wise, I watched The Tender Bar last night, which is a great movie. Ben Affleck, Ty Sheridan, and Dylan Minnette are like my 2 favorite like younger actors. Kyle Gallagher.
Yeah, Ty is great. He was in last year's The Card Counter, which it was really good.
Oh yeah, I haven't seen that. But yeah, I watched that last night. Typical, I think Boston, but typical, like 1980s kind of coming of age story. I watched that. What else did I watch recently? The Ray Donovan movie that just came out 2 days ago on Showtime. They didn't get renewed for another season, but they wanted to wrap it up, and the movie was fantastic. I thought it just wrapped it up with a bow. It was great. Watched that. I do need to watch the new Resident Evil.
Yeah, I'd just like to check that out too.
Yep, that's out. And then what else have I been watching? I'm trying to think of.
Didn't you see Spider-Man? New Spider-Man?
Yep, the new Spider-Man, which was fantastic. Oh, I loved it. It pays homage as well to a lot, and it's just really good. And the cast and everybody who's in it, it's really good. I was a little disappointed in the post-credit scenes. That was kind of the only thing that kind of disappointed me, but it's fantastic. And then I was going to say, I've been watching like the newer sitcoms. Abbott Elementary is kind of like an office interview style show that takes place in an inner city elementary school. And then the creator of Superstore has a new show out called American Auto with Anna Gasteyer and a few other people. Those are both very, very funny newer shows.
I saw some ads for that back when I was back home for the holidays. It looks pretty funny.
Yeah, I watch every sitcom that's on. I need to catch up on the new Wonder Years. I watched the first few, but I want to, work my way through that. But yeah, what about you? Now that you've been, breaking out of the Breaking Bad shell, what have you been watching for shows or movies?
Right. Well, I'll talk about some movies first. So this is kind of what I've been watching probably since like around Christmas time, a little before that and whatnot. But recently I watched Being the Ricardos, which I think was an Amazon original release. That one was okay. Which is kind of the general consensus overall. Like it's interesting because it's about Lucille Ball, like at a certain period when she's filming I Love Lucy, and her relationship with her husband at the time, Desi Arnaz, and it's kind of focusing on just this, like I said, this one point, I think like during season 2, where there was kind of a shitstorm of events happening to her. One of them being she was pregnant. She was being committed as a communist by the American Un-American Party, which was obviously a big deal at the time. And she was obviously having issues with herself, like kind of being not wanting to be typecasted as just like a funny ditzy character on a TV show. She wanted to be more act in films. So it has all the meat there to make a really good movie, but I think it's weird. It almost feels like it's ping-ponging back between all those ideas, and it never quite like, I don't know, solidifies. It's never satisfying, or it never really reaches the heights it wants to, but I mean, it was good enough for what it was. And I mean, Aaron Sorkin's a good writer. Obviously this is like his 3rd movie now, I think.
Aaron Sorkin did it?
Yeah, he directed it. Yeah, and he's directed
wow.
Molly's Game that came out a couple years ago with what's her name? I'm already forgetting it. But Molly's Game,
Jessica
and then
Chastain.
Jessica Chastain, and then
Yep.
the
Social
Chicago one.
Network.
Well, he wrote the Social Network, yeah. But as far as directed movies,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
he made. I think this is his third one, but yeah,
Oh, the Chicago 7, that Netflix movie.
yeah, with Sacha Baron Cohen, yeah.
Yeah, Joseph Gordon-Levitt. And who plays Lucia Ball? It's Deborah Messing, right?
No, it's Nicole Kidman.
Oh, okay.
Although Deborah Messing, like I didn't even realize it, but like there was somewhat of like a there was like a need for her, like people like there was like I don't know if like people got petitions, but there was like a lot of people that actually wanted her to play Lucille.
I thought it was her. I was just gonna say I've been binge watching Will and Grace. I've never seen it before, so during work I watched in the background, which is a very, very funny show. I'm excited to not only watch the whole original series, but watch the kind of newer one that started up again last year. It's very funny. I watched Dharma and Greg for the first time recently. I watched Cheers for the first time a few years ago.
Oh, Cheers is great. I was going through that a while back. Yeah, I think I got to like season 3 or something. I'd like to finish that too. That's a great show.
Early Woody Harrelson and Ted Danson. You can't go wrong with that.
Oh yeah, amazing cast in that show.
My dog is sneaking into the camera here with the green screen. Let's see if we can. Let's see if we can see him.
Where's he at?
I'm trying to.
Green screen's like, nope, we're not going to show him. Oh, there he is.
You got him?
Oh, yeah, I see him a little bit.
I'm gonna take a screenshot. Yeah, there's so much to watch. I was talking to my parents the other day about like how I like no longer pay now for cable, but now I have just the same amount that I'm paying for with Netflix, Hulu, Paramount Plus.
Oh, there's so
Showtime,
many.
HBO, there's just so much original content too. I mean,
even if you only have like 2 streaming services, you still probably have like just as much as cable at this point. Like because Netflix is pumping out so many movies and shows per year because now they're trying to really compete with original programming. So
Netflix, I've lost a lot of interest in just because it seems like they buy too much, and they do. A lot of it's young adult and just very kitschy kind of young adult. But I will say some of the other things I've been watching recently. Season 4 of Cobra Kai, which I binged in about a day or two.
Just started watching it, like 1 episode in.
You did?
Yeah.
Season 4 is way less kitschy than all the other seasons, and it's way less like... Yeah, I've always liked it for the nostalgic purposes, but this new season's actually just really good.
Nice.
I also recommend The Mighty Ducks on Disney Plus. That's not kitschy at all. It's just a great new telling. But yeah, I've been watching that, and then Queer Eye for the Straight Guy. New season just came out in Texas, so I've been watching that as well, and that's just been Have you ever seen that show?
No, I don't think I have, honestly.
Fantastic. I mean, there's 5 guys, and each season's taking place somewhere else. It's either Atlanta, Texas, a few other places, but it's just fantastic. Highly recommend that. Very heartfelt show. Super funny too. Very, very funny. But also this whole last season had to do with COVID a lot, and people kind of overcoming things, and I think that's what I've been watching. So Netflix has definitely gotten me. We'll talk about some of the more recent original shows and movies on Netflix made my list for this year. But yeah,
I think it's maybe a good word or term to use to describe Netflix is maybe oversaturation. Like you're right, they buy up too much. I mean, I guess it's a good thing they invest so much money into their own programming, but at a certain point, you're right. It's like they're kind of putting out so much of the same content sometimes, where it's all like young adult, becoming an adult kind of stuff, and it's a lot of the same.
It's like Freeform as a streaming service. That's what I feel like Netflix has become, where it's just like, what happens when 2 teens at a local high school fall in and out of love during a hurricane season? Find out this season on Hurricane High, coming to Netflix.
Hurricane High. Brad, go right from Netflix. They'd fucking eat that up in a second. Hurricane High. That probably is a show already. That sounds like a
If
TV
it's not, show. I've come up with a couple. Okay, I've come up with 2 shows recently. I'm only going to remember one of them. And I might not even remember. Oh, remember my Big Fat Greek Wedding?
I do, yep.
How has there not been a documentary called My Big Fat Geek Wedding?
Oh yeah, right.
Where like people are paying like millions of dollars for like Star Wars themed weddings and stuff. I'm like, that seems like the best show idea ever.
That'd be a cool show.
Yeah, we gotta pitch that. You're out in San Diego now, so you gotta make some connections. I'm gonna just send a bunch of ideas your way, and then you go and pitch them all. Because that's how it works out there, right? You just go and pitch.
Yeah, I'll just be in the park, just pitching away ideas, and
You're talking about Disney, the Disney park?
The Disney park, where the execs just flock around and they'll be like, oh shit, ideas.
And I'll be coming out this fall to bring my 1-year-old out for pilot season, of course, to see if I can get him in some TV shows. That was one of my favorite documentaries. Back when I like really wanted to be in film back in college, I watched a couple documentaries on screenplay writing and learned a lot about that. There was one documentary about pilot season, about families who go out and stay at the same like motel in Hollywood every year, and they try to get their kids into like Disney originals and stuff like that. And it's like Dance Moms. It's just like it's crazy. It's like a form of child abuse. It's crazy.
I bet, because it's like, obviously there's plenty of kids who want to do that even from such a young age, but it's so weird because like I almost feel like there's parents that want it even more. Like they want it almost for themselves to have their kid be this Macaulay Culkin star or something, and which obviously most of the time it seems like these child actors have a really hard time growing up naturally. It's an unfortunate thing, but yeah, what else do I got on here?
What do you have for you have any movie news? Anything you're excited?
Not much news. I still have more I've seen though. Like I said, being the Ricardos, I watched All About Eve for the first time, which was really good. It's a 1950s movie by Joseph L. Mankiewicz, and it's really good. It's pretty much just about a Broadway star who is kind of aging. I think she's only like 40 in the movie, but she feels like she's getting to that point where she might peak. And then out of nowhere, a young woman comes in, Eve, and she kind of brings life into her. She sees that she has potential, but over time she becomes jealous of her because she thinks this younger girl's going to kind of take away the limelight from her. It's fascinating. It was a really good movie. It's just one of those classics I've always heard about but I've never seen. And that's another thing I'm trying to do this year, just kind of go back and watch a lot of older movies I've missed out on over the years. I'll also watch The Fan. Have you ever seen The Fan? It's a Tony Scott movie.
Wesley Snipes?
Wesley Snipes and Robert De Niro.
Yeah, love that movie.
It's so good.
Love it.
Yeah, my roommate and I literally for the past week have just been yelling, "Hey, Bobby!" Because like he does that for like 50% of the movie. He's just yelling Bobby's name.
Was it your first time watching it?
Yeah, cause and it's funny. I had seen clips of it like way back, but never watched it in full. But this, first time watching it in full.
Yeah,
really great, just 90s thriller, and obviously Robert De Niro's playing, as usual, like insane, fucking like creepy character, kind of similar to Cape Fear or like even like Taxi Driver. It's great, and Tony Scott, I love Tony Scott. That guy made some great movies throughout his career. That's definitely one of them. Also, when I was watching it, I was really surprised by some other actors in it too. Benicio del Toro's in it. Definitely forgot about that, and it was just a crazy movie, crazy 90s movie.
I love that. I mean, like Matthew McConaughey's, I don't know why this popped in my mind, but I guess baseball movies. Matthew McConaughey's in like Angels in the Outfield. Like there's just so many movies that you go back and watch, and there's like somebody who had like 2 lines in the background, and you're like, wait, that's I mean, like, not that they weren't not famous then, but like, what is it? Never Been Kissed with Drew Barrymore had John C. Reilly, Molly Shannon, Catherine Hahn in it. And it's like, obviously they were all starting to get big back then already, or already were big, but you watch these movies and you're like, these casts are loaded. Like,
yeah, no, exactly. And it seems like every person or every other person is like a lot bigger now or more notable. For sure. And that's how I've also been feeling about other movies I've been watching is in the past week I've watched Scream 1 through 3.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I'm getting ready to watch the new one because this is my first time going through them. I've seen the first one a few times now, but I had never seen 2, 3, and 4. So, and they're fun, man. Like I like 2 and 3 quite a bit. They just kind of continually up the ante on like the meta commentary on horror. And they get more goofy, but the kills get a little more intense. And
Jamie Kennedy.
Jamie Kennedy, yeah.
Yep.
Who I was sad. I was sad that he died in the second one.
Oh, he does? I thought he was like the whole one who survived everything because he never broke the rules.
Yeah, well, technically he was like the smartest one, or at least his film knowledge helped him out. But no, he gets got in the Scream 2, and then in the third, he does actually make like a little cameo in the third one because they find like a video that he pre-recorded, and he's just like giving them tips for like how to survive the third movie in the trilogy. And then he's like, if you're watching this, I'm probably already dead.
The fourth one's all right. I mean, it's got a loaded cast and it's fun. What I would recommend if you're watching it, go back and watch the Scream TV show that was on MTV.
Oh, yeah.
There were probably 2 or 3 seasons. I read some reviews saying this new movie kind of like took some notes from the TV show. I thought the latest season of the TV show was not great. It went very much in the kind of like freeform, kitschy, kind of like overly PC kind of route, I guess.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah, but the first season of the show on MTV was one of those like, how is this on cable? Like, it was very, very twisted, very dark, very scary, really messed up. Highly recommend it if you're looking to continue Scream. Of course, it's a very different story. It doesn't really tie in.
I'm gonna check it out because I love the series now. I mean, I've always loved the first one, and then for some reason I just never really watched the other two, but or the 4 and 5 now. But no, they're fun as hell, and like the third one's fascinating because like they're making Stab 3, because Stab is like the Scream movie within in the movie, so like. They're on set, and like at the end, she's running around the set, which is modeled after the home that she was originally attacked in. So it's like a whole full circle moment within the trilogy where she's getting like attacked in the same way, in the replica house of the old home. So it's just cool. I'm excited to watch 4 and 5. I've heard nothing but a lot of praise for the new one.
It's got good reviews, and the cast is crazy. I mean, Dylan Minnette, who's one of the best, and then I was really sold.
Oh no, Jack Quaid.
Jack Quaid. I was really sold when I saw that Kyle Gallner was in it. He's a super good, mostly indie, but he's a super good younger actor.
What's he? What else has he been in?
Kyle Gallner. So he was in a show called The Outsiders. Let me see.
Yeah, the HBO show. I actually did some security on that back in 2019.
No, sorry, I could be saying. Hold on. He's done mostly horror. Hunting in Connecticut, Nightmare of Elm Street, Jennifer's Body. It was called Outsiders. It was very similar to like the newer Wrong Turn, kind of similar to that, but it's who's in that one? That cast, highly recommend it. Ryan Hurst, already good enough. David Morse. But basically it's about these people who live off the grid, and in Kentucky they live off the grid, and they like, nobody in town goes to them. They don't go into town, but they start to kind of like cross paths. Yeah, he's been in a lot. He's one of those people who's been around for a very, very long time.
And he's been in definitely a lot of notable horror movies too, which is cool.
Ghosts of War, that came out last year, or 2020, and looked really interesting.
Oh yeah, I remember that one. Yeah,
he's good. Oh, he's in Far Cry. Oh, that makes sense. The Far Cry short, he'd be great in that.
But yeah, those are pretty much movies I've been watching, and then TV shows. Finally trying to catch up. Well, I mean, I don't think I'll ever catch up to you, Mikey, but definitely watching more TV shows. I did start watch episode 1 of Yellow Jackets. Completely sold. That shit is good. And a amazing premise. And I feel like, have you ever heard of like the 20 or 30 year cycles? Like within pop culture, how like every like 30 years, like there's that sense of like nostalgia that they take from 30 years prior. Because like in the 90s, there was a lot of like 60s based pop culture. Like, like there was like Austin Powers that was 60s based. And I feel like, all last decade, there was a bunch of 90s and 80s memorabilia and movies stuff. But I think this decade's going to be all about the 90s, like truly, because now 90s is going to be 30 years old.
Isn't that crazy?
Just fucking wild. I'm gonna be 30 soon. So it's like, so like seeing how detailed they were within I can't even call them flashbacks. Well, I guess you can in the context of Yellow Jackets, but because it's cutting back between present day and then what happened in 1996. But yeah, super cool premise. I'm so excited to go through it all. And it just ended, so I can just watch a whole season now.
You gotta let me know when you're done with it. It's
because maybe we can even do like a episode on or something, because
Yes.
that's another thing we'll talk about it soon. But we do want to do episodes on TV shows. I know we'll definitely do one on The Boys, because season 3 was announced, or the release date I think was announced for May, if I'm not
I think
mistaken.
June.
Or June. Okay, so
say
sometime in the
June.
summer.
They
which
came
is
out
really exciting.
They came out with a very light teaser for it. I know, I can say it's a very light teaser, but it's going to be great. I of course don't follow the graphic novels, but I know they've announced a lot for the new characters that they're introducing.
Oh, that's exciting. This is the Boys is great for a lot of different reasons, but one thing I like is now that every season it's like there's even more excitement based around what new heroes we're going to see.
Yep.
Because both seasons introduced, we have like the main cast, but there's always these little side heroes and people that are just like have like insanely weird powers, and I love seeing how creative they can get with that.
And it does, most TV shows, when they introduce new people, they're going to be on for seasons and seasons. Not as much in The Boys. It doesn't mean that they're going to,
No.
be around.
They had a lot of fake out stuff where you're like, oh, this character's gonna be like really powerful, and nope, they just died.
Yep.
They do that all the time. So I'm excited for that. And then the only other show I've been watching, I think I'm on I just finished episode 4 of Kevin Can F Himself. Also sold. Super good.
Nothing like it.
Yeah, it's so unique. And I mean, it's funny, the only other thing I was thinking of, and you can't even really compare them, but I was thinking like WandaVision a little bit when I was watching it, just in that there's 2 different like kind of formats going on. Hey doggy. Aw. Jaeger just wants to be on the podcast.
It's like anytime I have an important meeting at work, that's the time that the dogs decide to like start eating dinner behind me. I tried to meditate the other day, and my eyes are closed, and like Jaeger never eats, and then all of a sudden he's just behind me, just like, and I'm like, this is the worst timing. Well, at least now I'm gonna get a good screenshot of him. This is our official mascot of the podcast. Say hi over here.
Jaeger the pug.
Here he is.
He's so adorable.
He's a cool dude.
But yeah, no, I mean, yeah, Kevin F Himself, it's like, I guess again, almost combining 2 different formats of television, where we have like this overly saturated, typical like funny, silly sitcom, and then it's contrasting that with I'm trying to remember her name, with our main protagonist. What's that?
Oh, I was just like any TV show or movie. I always know their names in real life. I never know their names in the show. I just know her as what's her name in real life? Annie somebody.
It's Annie Murphy.
Annie Murphy, yeah.
I forget what her name is in the show, but Annie. Yeah, so like it's when we're with her, the show turns to single camera. It turns to being like almost like a much darker drama in a lot of ways, and it's just so cool. I love how they're playing it out, and I'm especially impressed by how well they're kind of able to merge the 2 formats. Mm-hmm. Where like it'll go from something super dramatic. She's dealing with straight up just murdering her own husband, and she's like and she can't deal with how kind of consistently mundane her life has become, and then she'll walk back inside, and it just turns back into this goofy, silly sitcom. But it just works. It works for on both angles, and I'm excited to see where it goes, because like every episode I'm like, how is this gonna play out?
Yep. It's such a short season too. Also filmed in Massachusetts, takes place in Massachusetts.
Yeah, and actually there was an oh shit moment for me the last episode, where they shot some of it in Brockton, Massachusetts, where I have some family. I grew up pretty close to there, and they showcased Cape Cod Cafe, which is a very notable bar pizza joint. And like right when I saw it, I was just like, I was like, yes, I love seeing places. I've gone to that place so many times growing up. Like, so it was really cool to see that.
I have a comedian friend who was in it. The scene where they're out eating dinner for like their anniversary, and there's the famous baseball player sitting next to them.
I don't know if I've gotten to that episode yet.
But yeah, the guy who was like his agent at the table is a comedian that I know, and I messaged him, and I was like,
nice.
I was like, am I watching you on Kevin Can F Himself right now? Yeah,
that's awesome.
I feel like everything you're naming right now is my top, so I feel like we have to get into that soon because I'm trying not to talk about too many things yet.
No, I feel I've already to omit a couple things. So yeah, we'll move on. That's everything I've pretty much seen, other than some of the stuff we'll talk about in a little bit.
I was gonna say I don't have too much movie news. I did just see Tom Cruise might be playing Iron Man in the new Doctor Strange movie. So
oh wow, really?
Yeah, that was super interesting.
Okay.
I could see him playing Iron Man. I mean, he would also like be Iron Man in real life. He would like create his own suit and fly around in it.
Oh yeah, he would definitely do that. I mean, we've already seen him skydive for his own movie like multiple times, and among other crazy stunts that guy
not
does.
just skydive, he halo jumps. Do you know what halo jumping is?
No.
Halo jumping stands for high altitude, low opening. So what that means is you're going higher than most people skydive from. You're going like way higher altitude. So like, when you're jumping out, it's very easy for you to, lose your mind or something. Higher altitude, low opening. So when you're skydiving, you open your parachute at X amount of feet above the air. Halo jumping, you're opening it a lot closer to Earth.
That's crazy. So you were falling for even longer, and you still open it up a lot. That's wild.
And I mean, I remember seeing the behind the scenes of that Mission Impossible, and it was like him and another Halo jumper with a camera on his head, and they were just like, that was just like their practice, like at our jobs, we do one thing or another to kind of like learn and educate ourselves. We might watch a video for training purposes. He just jumps out of a plane a bunch and does Halo jumping.
Well, that's why he's great, and that's why he's so well known, because he puts himself in these really insane situations for the sake of art, and it's like, and we all get to watch and be amused by it. So
I've been wanting to rewatch Vanilla Sky. Did you say you haven't seen that?
Still, that's Cameron Crowe. Yeah, I still haven't seen that.
Yeah, I would like to do an episode on that. It's one of the trippiest movies. I think it's also one of those movies that still holds up. Like, you'd watch it today and it would be like, I wouldn't have guessed that was made so long ago. Like, the effects, everything.
Oh, nice.
It's very, very good.
That's,
I mean, I'd say that's the movie news I really knew about. What else is going on?
No, I mean, that's about it. I'd say we now maybe segue into the kind of overview.
I was going to say, what are you excited about for seeing in 2022? What are The Boys, of course, is coming out. A bunch of shows will be coming back at some point. But, what upcoming movies do you have?
I have quite a bit. This is a stacked year. I'm very excited. We have a lot of kind of masters of film coming back to make stuff. Martin Scorsese with Killers of the Flower Moon. Master Gardener and Paul Schrader movie coming back. I think even Dario Argento is making a movie this year, which is cool. But there's a lot of stuff. There's apparently, hopefully, Avatar 2 coming out this year. Might not be till the end or like December this year, but it is slated to come out this year.
Is it really? Yeah.
Yeah. Which is crazy. 12 years or so since, or 13, I guess now. Since
and he's supposed to be releasing them back to back to back, right? 3 years every year.
I think so, yeah, right. Yeah, one a year or something like that, which is cool. Yeah. I think it's gonna be great. Like, because Avatar is obviously such a monumental movie in its own right, and the fact that it's been he's been spending all this time, a decade and a half or so working on more is wild. So I'm excited to see that.
There's a video game coming out this year that a lot of people thought was a trailer, because the video game is for PlayStation 5, and I'm like, damn, now I need a PlayStation 5. It's so realistic looking that it looks like a movie trailer.
Games are getting crazy, man.
One of the coolest things about these new ones is they're pretty much all taking place underwater, these new Avatar movies. So the cast and crew are learning how to breathe underwater for longer times than most humans can. So like Kate Winslet is just like underwater for like 6 minutes. And it's just like,
it's wild.
Anything for James Cameron, but it's like...
Oh yeah, because apparently they're doing actual filming underwater mixed with mocap. So I'm like, it's going to look crazy. Like, it's gonna look fucking crazy, because there's no James Cameron movie that doesn't look amazing.
I wanted to bring up too, because you were talking about what were you talking about yesterday? Like a microphone picking up certain sound. Remember you were saying like if something fell, like when you were using your last microphone.
Yeah, well, I was saying that. So right now I have my mic on a stand, and so if something hits my table, it's not going to be that loud, or the mic will pick up on it, but it won't be that loud. But the past couple episodes, I've noticed, because I've been traveling and stuff, I used the mic table stand it came with, so the mic is pretty much directly touching the table. So in that case, if I even just, I think I text you, I'm like, even if a speck of dust, using hyperbole, but I'm like, even if a speck of dust touches the desk, it just boom, like it just makes a huge sound in my mic. And I kind of fixed that, but it was an issue at one point.
I was saving this for the podcast. James Cameron, of course, created a new camera for Avatar. So basically, before Avatar came around, you would film somebody in green screen, and there'd be a giant green or blue screen behind them, and they'd have tennis balls on them, and you'd have to pretend that Andy Serkis was a 10-foot tall gorilla, even though you're looking at Andy Serkis with ping pong balls on him. And of course, they're all professionals. They know what they're doing. You can pretend you can see it. As a director, you always see things in post-production. But what James Cameron made for Avatar was a camera that when you're looking through it, it converts what it's going to look like in post-production. So when he was making Avatar, he would see them as avatars when he was directing them. Anyway, long story short, the second movie to use James Cameron's 3D cameras after Avatar was Final Destination 5, which is David Koechner, Miles Fisher, PJ Byrne, fantastic movie. Ties in a lot of stuff. It's a great movie. That was the second movie to use the cameras, and I remember reading an interview with one of the cast members, and they said like if you were filmed like over the camera and an eyelash fell off and floated down towards the camera, you would have to reshoot the whole entire scene. So those cameras pick up, especially the 3D cameras, pick up every speck of dust and everything that you can't have anything interfere.
I'm sure if a eyelash landed on the lens, the camera would be able to pick up like the atoms that make up the eyelash.
I could you just imagine being like James Cameron or somebody yelling at you because your eyelash fell off? He's like, that was a $50,000 shoot. We all want to go home. Now we have to redo this. You're supposed to keep your eyelashes on.
I've been at this for 13 hours straight. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I can't wait for the new movies, and I still want to go to Avatar World in Disney.
Yeah. It's too cool what he's created and what he'll hopefully continue to create within that world. So yeah, Avatar 2, definitely excited.
I feel like okay, Tom and I were going to talk about our upcoming episodes. I think we need to do an Avatar episode soon.
Yeah, that'd be a good one to do.
And I think I want to argue against everybody who's like, Avatar is Fern Gully, Avatar's Pocahontas. I get that the whole thing with that being called unobtainium, the mineral called unobtainium is pretty dumb. But like that's the thing is, I still thought the movie was pretty good. But yes, it is kind of a Fern Gully Pocahontas retelling. What movie or what song or what TV show is not inspired by something else?
Yeah.
But that's the thing is the movie wasn't really about like the rising action and the hyperboles and the Shakespearean sonnets. It was about just fucking cool special effects and graphics, and that's what it was about.
Yeah,
you know,
well, which brings into question like, you know, like what's really important when you're watching a movie, and how no two movies are made the same, right? So like in this case, Avatar, you're right. You're going into it knowing it is designed to be this spectacle. Like you're literally, and I mean, even the introduction of Avatar, like when they go to Pandora or whatever, it's like, it's this whole great buildup. Like we're finally so when you actually are in Pandora, you're just as surprised as Jake is in the movie, if that's his name in the movie. So it's like, and that's what James Cameron does. So yeah, you're right. It's like, yeah, the story is serviceable. It's not bad. It's just kind of serviceable. We've seen it before, but it still holds up to me because it's presenting this completely new and original world that James Cameron thought of. So it's like, so yeah, people who are hating on it, I mean, whatever, it's your opinion, but like, it's like, how can you not watch them and be like, this is something cool. Like this is something really different and original.
Excuse me. You can also tell who didn't see it in 3D or IMAX. I mean,
right.
IMAX 3D doesn't exist anymore because nobody wanted to see them. I'm
You're
hoping when Avatar comes out, it's a movie that like kind of brings that back at least, because that's not a movie I only want to see in IMAX or only want to see in 3D. Like I want to see that like 10 times in theaters. I want to see it in 4D. 4D theaters are very rare these days as well, but yeah, I would go all out. But
no, I guarantee because of James Cameron's immense power, like he'll be able to show this in IMAX 3D and have theaters formatted for it because, like I said, one, because of who he is and how much money these are undoubtedly going to make. But like, I mean, we'll get into it in a little bit, kind of talking about the state of, I guess, film in general. But like, I truly think that even with everything going on in the world, I really think that the movie going experience is only going to get stronger. And I think escapism is even more of like a desire these days. So I really think theaters are going to almost want to invest in this kind of stuff to get people to check out different formats or watch movies in a different way, especially when they're designed to be seen on the biggest screen in 3D. Because, yeah, I haven't seen a 3D movie in the longest time. And the last time I remember even seeing one, like, just advertised was back when I was in Vegas. Like, I went to one theater and they were showing Eternals in 3D at one theater I passed. And I was like, oh, shit. Like, I didn't even know they were showing this movie in 3D. But
3D is still very popular. IMAX is
Yeah.
still very popular, but
Oh,
it's
of
very
course.
rare that you see the two. And one of the
Yeah.
last ones I saw in IMAX 3D that I highly recommended. Well, I saw a bunch of random ones with like free screeners. Saw that like Everest movie. Saw Mad Max in IMAX 3D. But I want to do an episode on this as well. Ready Player One in IMAX 3D.
Oh, okay.
Have you
Still
seen
haven't
that
seen
yet?
it.
That to
No.
me is a movie where like you'll probably watch it and be like, it was pretty cool. And it's like, but Tom, you'll never know what it was like seeing an IMAX. Like when people go, oh, I watched Avatar on TV the other day, and you're like, why? What was the point? I won't watch Avatar on TV. What's the point after I've seen it in theaters? But like,
Yeah.
it's
So
such
it's
a
funny
different experience.
because I find like I fall in the middle when it comes to discussions of like how you should watch a movie, because like what you just said, that's more in line with like what Quentin Tarantino or Scorsese would say. Like, no, you got to go watch it on the biggest screen possible. And I agree too. Like, I think any movie, but especially ones like Ready Player One, like Avatar, benefit immensely by seeing it on the biggest screen possible. But I'm also of the opinion like a movie will stand on its own too. Also, if you're watching even on a laptop, like if it's good, it's good, you know. But
Yeah.
I understand. Like, hopefully, I don't know. Maybe there'll be a chance to see it. I know that a lot of theaters nowadays are playing movies from the past. Really, from I've seen them put on like just showcase The Matrix, or they've shown other movies in the past like 5 years. Just because at times there hasn't been even enough releases to like put out.
Yeah, you can rent theaters and watch anything. And they do like best
yeah.
ofs. They do little mini festivals with like the guy who did Spirited Away and all those movies. Those usually come to theaters every year. It's cool too because when we were growing up, you can go to Disney, and I remember seeing shorter Honey I Shrunk the Kids in 3D, well 4D with motions and stuff, and then there was a Muppets that you saw in 4D, and the pie comes out and hits Fozzie, and like that was only something you could get growing up at like the Boston Museum of Science or maybe at like Disney World, and now theaters are starting to like realize we can add scent in, we can add feels, and we can add fire and water. I saw probably 3 movies in 4D when I was out in Denver, and those were very fun. Like Lion King in 4D, and there was fire in the theaters, and it rained on you, and there were smells, and like we
That's
saw.
so crazy.
I think The Matrix in 4D, and like your seat would massage every time a bullet got shot. Like like it was very.
All that stuff's fun to me. Like it's because I don't think I've ever done it's called 4D. I don't even know if I've gone to that yet, but I've gone to like similar immersive like theater experiences. I remember there. You know what Mom is, right? At Jordan's Furniture.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, because that's kind of similar where, it's I don't even know if is Jordan's Furniture nationwide. I don't even know at this point. But one of these I remember there was a Jordan's Furniture not too far from where I used to live that had the Mom theater experience, and like I remember seeing there was like a short, like it might have been like 20-30 minute like SpongeBob kind of like POV style like experience where you like SpongeBob's like trying to like deliver something, and he's on a bike, so you're on the back of his bike as he's like we're going through traffic and going through all these crazy places, and again the seats move with the movements of SpongeBob, and like there was misting and like bubbles at one point, and yeah, so fun. Like I would love to see more of that kind of stuff.
I grew up going to the Reading one. I saw a few movies in just IMAX there, like Darren Aronofsky's Noah. And then I saw a couple movies in IMAX 3D. There's a chimpanzee and elephant documentary called Born to be Wild in IMAX 3D, Polar Express in IMAX 3D. And I live near the other Jordans with the theaters, and I've lived here for a year now, and the theater has not been open since COVID. And I'm just like waiting
still not
for
open?
the first. No, still not.
Damn.
Yeah, I went shopping there and saw like the close sign. It was just like, this is sad. But yeah, I guess before we get into the top 5, I guess we wanted to kind of we won't do too many lists, but we wanted to kind of talk about our podcast so far. We started it about a year ago. This is episode 19. We're gonna try to get into more weekly scheduling now that we're both kind of more settled in and all of that. So I think we're gonna probably do an Avatar episode. We'll do Yellow Jackets, we'll do The Boys. We're gonna have some friends on from other podcasts, other filmmakers, and things like that. But yeah, definitely go back and watch our first 18 episodes at some point. We we've had on directors, we've had on actors, we've had on experts for different things. And one thing I'll say is, I think somebody asked me the other day, I told them that we were doing Home Alone or something, and they're like, that's not horror. Like, I think a lot of people think that our podcast is just horror movies. We flock to horror. We write horror. We love horror. We're probably going to keep doing mostly horror, but
True.
But we're definitely not a horror movie podcast. I mean, even when we started, we were like, we do movies, and then we were like, fuck it, let's do TV shows, let's do commercials, let's do like whatever we want to do. So I mean, you know, and then the Oscars are coming up too, so we're going to be doing at least one episode for that as well, which will be good.
Like, I think if anything, you know, this is still defined. I would still define this as a movie podcast, but if anything, it's more of like a I would say pop culture kind of podcast, because you're right. We will talk about TV shows, music, commercials, what have you. So, but yeah, I mean, I think definitely go check out some of our last episodes. I think 2021, even though there were times we took like 2 breaks at one point, and we weren't as consistent maybe as we wanted to, it was still a great year. Like Mikey said, we had a slew of great guests on, who all of them brought something unique to the table, all of professional, and really just made the show a lot more enjoyable to do than it already is. And yeah, I mean, you know, I think also it was an interesting year overall too, because I think I loved it as far as like the general scope of movies. I thought it was a great year for movies. I'm super happy with my top 5. I love, there's so many more movies that I'll talk about in my honorable mentions, but great year. And I think it's interesting because this is the year you could almost say is like the return to normalcy. Maybe like this is, it's been the first full year without major lockdowns since 2020 from the COVID pandemic. So even though we're still dealing with the pandemic, it's been a full year of still being able to go to the theaters, which, you know, I think a lot of movies underperformed still because of COVID, and obviously there's still been restrictions, but it's still been a full year. And I think what we got, like I said, is exciting, and I'm super excited for 2020, this year, 2022, and years to come as far as what we're going to see movie wise. Because as I already listed off some movies earlier, there's a lot of kind of masters of cinema coming back and making stuff. And I didn't mention this one earlier, but there's one movie coming out called Wendell and Wild, and it's by Henry Selick, who is known for making like Coraline and The Nightmare Before Christmas.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, I think this is his first feature in over a decade. So
is it animated?
Yep, stop motion. I'm pretty sure. So, which yeah. And that's another thing. Stop motion is right up. I like anytime I can see stop motion in theaters, I'm all for it.
Heck yeah. I mean, Team America. Learning about how Team America was made was so cool. Well, yeah. Let's get into the list here. You know, Tom and I want to talk about. So we of course we can never just do one topic. We were going to do our top 5 movies of 2021, but I think more of what we're going for is let's see what we have in my notes here. We have top 5 movies, honorable mentions for film. We have like bottom 5, you know, some of the worst movies we saw. We're going to talk about TV a little bit. And I just want to bring up, to start off, Jaeger is going to talk about his favorite movies. I also want to talk about, I'm not good at narrowing things down. If you're listening to this podcast and you know who I am, you know, and people call me out on this all the time, and it's fair. I say everything's my favorite. Yellow Jacket's my favorite show. Succession is my favorite show. Oh, you gotta watch Dexter. It's the best show on TV. Oh, what do you mean you're not watching This Is Us? It's the best show on TV. So this list was super hard for me to do. I was even like, at one point I was like, I have 20. No, I only have 2. I can't think of movies. What movies did I see? I was Googling movies released in 2021 just to like, so I tried to come up with a list. You know, things aren't really in order. I'll preface that. It's not really in order of, you know, top 5 from favorite to least. And I just feel like over the next few months, I'm going to be like, damn it, I didn't talk about that on the podcast. Damn it, I forgot to mention that movie.
I know. Well, I will say this, and I kind of agree, because every year I try to make like a top, overall, like I'll even try to make like a top 20, just like encapsulate my favorite movies, because there's just so many. And that's why I even said, you know, I agreed to do an honorable mention section, because there's so many movies we want to talk about that didn't make the top 5, or, you know, these are movies that might make our top, you know, 10 or top 20 or whatever. So I agree though. And like this list that I made, I'm pretty confident. I feel good about it, but it could change. Honestly, it could definitely change over time. So I'm not like, I don't know. But these, I know for a fact that the movies I picked, I'm sure the same with you, are just the ones that really struck a chord with you. They're the ones that really stood out to you over the years, over the last year. not just entertaining, not just pure escapism, but movies that maybe challenged you, that brought something new to the table that you haven't seen before. Just movies that really excited you. And all of these ones on my list do that in spades. So like Mikey said, we'll do the top 5 movies. We'll do even top 5 TV shows. And I can surprisingly do that as well. And then a worst of as well. So with all that said, do you want to start with honorable mentions for movies, and hell, even TV shows too, if you want to do that?
Yeah, that's so we're going Oscars route, aren't we? We're building up to the top 5 movies.
Yes.
I like it. Yeah. Yeah, you want to start with like TV shows? I don't have a top 5 for TV shows. I have like a top 20, but yeah. You want to start with TV shows?
Sure, and I'll go through kind of fast because we want to make the movies the main priority. But do you want to just list all of them now and talk a little bit about each one, or?
Yeah, you want me to list, and then you want me to just list them?
Well, yeah, because I can list my top 5 if you want, because I did put together a top 5.
I'd say list them and give a sentence or 2 on each one.
Okay.
Why were they your favorite, and who would you recommend them to?
Okay, cool. So for TV shows, my top 5, my fifth, number 5 is True Story. That was one that was released late last year. I talked about it, I think, in the last episode. It's a mini series with Kevin Hart and Wesley Snipes. Fantastic. It's like 4.5 hours total, but it's something of like a crime drama where we're following Kevin, who kind of plays a version of himself, super successful, and he finds himself in a really tricky situation where he ends up killing a mob member, and his brother Wesley in the show, he kind of gets him into this mess. So it's a whole show, it's a whole miniseries about him trying to hide the fact that he killed somebody and trying to basically get his life back on track while he's kind of on tour performing his stand-up. It's great. Like, for one thing, Kevin is extremely good in it, as is Wesley Snipes, who is good in like everything ever. It's funny, but it's also it manages to hit these dramatic, thrilling points that I was surprised by Kevin Hart, for sure, because this is the first time I've ever seen him in something quite like this. So if you're into miniseries, if you're into anything crime related, this is right up your alley for sure.
I'm gonna have to watch it, definitely.
I think you'd love it. Like I said, you could probably watch it in a day if you really wanted to. It's super fun to watch. Number 4, I put WandaVision. I know you probably have this high up on your list too. Probably just straight up one of the best MCU things I've ever seen. It's much like Kevin Kneff himself, it has brings in multiple formats of television, and that's kind of its little that's kind of what it's going for, in how in like the first 5 or 6 episodes, every single scenario that Wanda's in, it's a different era of television. So it goes all the way from the 50s to pretty much present day, and it kind of parodies some openings of other TV shows, and it's just doing a lot. It's really funny, but it's also able to kind of fit itself within the Marvel canon in a pretty unique way. To me, like I said, it's a smarter way, I think, to go about kind of like post-Avengers MCU, where it's like, where do we go at this point? How do we, obviously they don't want to just retread the same waters. So this is to me is a smart way to go. Number 3, I already talked about it a little bit, but Kevin Can F Himself. I'm so excited to finish it. I think I have like 4 or 5 episodes left, but it's just, as I said, it's super unique in how it combines different television formats. Annie Murphy is incredible. Like, she's everything I see her in. She's so good. She can manage comedy and drama so incredibly well. Really unique show. If you like comedy, if you like drama, that's like one of the best shows you could watch. Number 2, I have Mayor of Easttown. Actually, so these 2 can almost be interchangeable because I love them so much. But Mayor of Easttown, also a mini series on HBO starring Kate Winslet, just like devastating. It's so sad and thrilling and unique. It all takes place kind of right outside, I want to say Philadelphia. Maybe it's like 40 minutes outside of Philadelphia. It's kind of a murder mystery, as well as kind of a personal drama about Kate Winslet and how she's dealing with the loss of her son. It's deep stuff. It's a very heavy show to watch, but performance-wise, one of Kate Winslet's best performances. Everyone's great in it.
I've heard only good things.
Yeah. Oh man, I think you'd love it too. I want to rewatch it again, as hard as it can be, because there's some very troubling ideas and topics in it that have to do with the suicide and mental health, but it's very good. And my number 1 show, I put Squid Game, because Squid Game, to me, I obviously, I'd heard about it. How couldn't you? It's like Netflix's like overwhelmingly number 1 most watched television show ever. But no, I mean, it hit everything I wanted it to. It's funny, it's dramatic, it's dark, it's bloody. It's a little bit of everything. It has such a unique, almost Saw, like Final Destination like premise where all these people are put into playing these childlike games, but if they lose, they get shot or killed. And it presents these really cool moments. It has almost like moral implications. Characters think that they're able to, that they might be able to team up with other people, but then realize they might have to go against their own friends or family members. So that's when it gets really tricky. And it was just thrilling, start to finish. It was cinematic as hell. All the games are so fun to watch, and they only get even more complex and thrilling as it goes on. So that was a show for me that every episode I was surprised by how entertaining and how deeper it was getting into its own story, and how much more unique it would get per episode. I loved it. Loved all of it. I'm super excited to see if anything else comes out of this show.
I didn't want to comment much because I wanted to, one, give you the light, and two, you and I see eye to eye on a few of those. So
cool.
And
what are your top 5, or in your case top 20?
I'll point out too, Tom and I did not talk about these. I texted Tom yesterday and I said, hey, do you want to kind of talk about our top 5 before we go into the episode to kind of have things ready to go? And Tom was like, no, let's let it, just flow. And I was like, I love that idea because I think Tom and we have very different interests, and also very similar too. Like Mayor of Easttown, not really on my list. I would like to see it. I've heard the acting's fantastic, but I'm like, I don't even know what that's about really. And then you're like Squid Games, and I was like, yep. And then he said something else, and I was like, I don't know what that is. So let me give the honorable mentions and then go into the top 5. And I'm gonna go rapid fire. I haven't really watched Always Sunny in Philadelphia in a couple years.
So good.
This year it set the record for longest running live action sitcom. This new season was maybe 8 episodes. Fantastic. Takes place some of it in Ireland. Some of the earlier episodes go back to them when they're 19 and 20, and it's just very funny. Very you get to see what Dee was like, and how they all became who they were.
That's great.
Very, very funny. And
I gotta go back because at one point I was almost ahead. I'm I've seen almost half. I've seen more than half. Now I'm way behind. I think I'm missing out on 7 or 8 seasons at this point or something.
Just watch the new one. And to know that the whole cast is all married to one another, and just how much fun they have. I think that's what I'm going to talk about in some of these movies. Some of these movies and shows I did truly love, but what's behind them really made them stand out to me. So Always Sunny was great. Reservation Dogs is on FX. It's a Taika Waititi show, written by him. I'll just kind of read the synopsis here. So 4 indigenous teenagers in rural Oklahoma steal, rob, and save in order to get to the exotic, mysterious, and faraway land of California. It's a dramedy about these kids whose best friend kills himself, and it kind of rallies around them trying to, grieve that, and then also trying to get out of town. Bill Burr is in a little bit of it. Another very funny, underrated comic, Kirk Fox, is in it. And it's a very, very good show. I mean, at 98 in Rotten Tomatoes. It's fantastic. Hacks on HBO Max. That was about a canceled comedian who comes in and kind of comes under the wing of kind of a... I guess Jane Fonda comedian kind of, and helps revamp. Phenomenal show. The other two, I think it was in its 2nd or 3rd season, so I'll just throw that in. Fantastic show. I Think You Should Leave. Very, very funny, dark sketch show on Netflix. What We Do in the Shadows, Taika as well. This season of Succession was fantastic. It's very Ray Donovan like, and like that similar show where it's the characters hate each other and will do everything to ruin each other, but not do that one thing. You really get to see their limits in this season of Succession, which I really appreciated, and how they truly are family, and that unconditional love. Mighty Ducks, so much homage to the original. You get to see what happened to Gordon Bombay. Great cameos. This Dexter season was great. Law and Order, Organized Crime. I've never watched Law and Order. Organized Crime, I just want to point out some of the cast. There's been 2 seasons so far. Christopher Maloney, of course. Dylan McDermott. Dash Mahawk, who plays Bunchy in Ray Donovan. Vinnie Jones is in this season. Guillermo Diaz, Michael Raymond James. It's fantastic. It's like modern organized crime with crypto. Highly recommend that. And then before I get to my top 5, honorable mention. I mean, the other 2, I think you should leave. What We Do in the Shadows, Succession, Dexter. Those have been on for a few years at least. Ted Lasso, I just started.
Oh, right.
Technically didn't come out in 2021, but that would probably be like the best show of recent memory. It's done by Bill Lawrence, who did Scrubs, my favorite show.
I didn't even know that. And actually, I don't want to cut you off, but can I quickly mention that right before we started recording,
Sure.
my roommate just got Apple TV, so definitely gonna be watching Ted Lasso probably today or tomorrow, honestly, because I've heard nothing also but praise.
You're going to want to write down every quote. You're going to want to write down everything he says. I mean, you want to, just like Scrubs, I've wanted to tattoo a few of the lines that Kelso said. There's so much to it. And it is like, just like Scrubs was, the most perfect dramedy ever. You are going to laugh and cry. And that's something Bill Lawrence does that not a lot of other people can do. Where like you go from laughing to crying in half a minute. So that's great. Top 5, Squid Games. So innovative, so original, so much like Saw. I've been playing Mario Party recently, about the new one for Switch.
Hey,
There's a couple very similar games. The red light, green light, the ones where they're jumping on the glass. It's kind of like Mario Party,
funny.
the show. I'm waiting for them to remake it in America, only so I can see Christopher Walken as the old guy. And I'm trying to like cast who's going to be who. But Squid Games, unlike anything. If you are going to watch it, don't watch it in English dub. I watched it that way and it kind of took away some of it. Read the subtitles. Don't be lazy.
Yeah,
like me.
I watched it with subtitles, and I mean, another thing I love is I watch subtitles a lot because not just because dubbing is hard to do, but I want to hear the original actor's voice. I want to hear their emotion coming out of their voice. So, and the actors in that show are fucking amazing.
Yeah,
like all of them, like incredible. And I can't remember his name. I feel bad. But the old guy in the show, he has like the best Cheshire, like, you know, like cat smile, like that smirk ever. Like he's awesome.
Fantastic twist.
Awesome.
The second season has a lot of directions it can go. So that would definitely be up there. Yellow Jackets. Yellow Jackets is a newer version of Lost, I want to say. Basically, you know, this high school soccer team crashes in the Andes, I think the Canadian Alps, something like that. And the only thing I don't love about it, I'm going to give it like a 99.9. I don't love the kind of mystery behind it.
Okay.
That's all I'll say. I'll never ruin this show for anybody. But that's something. Besides that, it's the best new show. Christina Ricci, Melanie Linsky, Juliette Lewis. It's fantastic. WandaVision. So I recently started Loki. I am kind of watching them in order. I'm probably not going to watch Hawkeye just because I find that very boring. Loki I didn't care for, and then I started it and I was into it. Now I've lost a little interest. Captain America, or what is it? Winter Soldier, Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Falcon, yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
I
still haven't seen it.
Not as good or as innovative as WandaVision, but fantastic. And very disturbing in some parts. So WandaVision is going to be in my top 5. They even kind of did like a Full House intro, which I thought was kind of funny. But WandaVision is fantastic. Randall Park, Catherine Hahn, of course, Elizabeth Olsen. Kevin can fuck himself. It makes you rethink everything. You know, I watch a lot of shows in the background. You know, if I'm getting ready or doing something, getting ready for bed, I might have According to Jim on in the background, which I never really watched. Or I'll watch King of Queens, which I did love. And Kevin can F himself, hits the nail on the head in all of them. I mean, that show is basically about the kind of overweight, slacky husband who has no redeeming qualities, who's married to the super hot wife who does everything and gets no respect. And like, that is every 90s sitcom, and it makes a lot of sense. And it's so dark. Robin Taylor Lord is in that. He's fantastic. He's an accepted Gotham. He's in Law and Order Organized Crime. And it's so, I just wish there were 20 more episodes. And then White Lotus. So my top 5 is Squid Games, Yellow Jackets, WandaVision, Kevin can F himself. White Lotus just got renewed for season 2. Aubrey Plaza just got added to that cast.
So White Lotus, you think number 1, numero uno of your favorite shows?
No, I'd say in order: Squid Games and Yellow Jackets, 1 and 2. WandaVision, Kevin can F himself. White Lotus.
Okay.
Yeah. And then if we can break the realm, Ted Lasso is in my top 5. If we can say movies that had seasons in 2021.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So that would be my top 5. I don't really have a worst for TV because it's not often, I guess, that you start a show and if it's bad, you just turn it off and you forget about it.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, a lot of great shows last year, and a lot of ones. I'm gonna obviously like I'm working on a couple. Kevin Kneff himself and Yellow Jackets. I'm gonna start Succession as well pretty soon. Ted Lasso, all of those I'm gonna be watching within the next few weeks.
I don't think I gave anything away on either of those, did I? Okay.
No, or at least I didn't pick up on them, or probably won't remember until So by the time I watch them, so
just some cast that I mentioned. Yeah.
Well, cool. With that, all that said, do you think we should jump into movies now?
Yeah, you want to do worst 5 or worst?
Should we start with worst? Might as well get it over with.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
What do you have?
So I only have 2 movies, and Mikey, you might be surprised that I left one out. But I'll start. So, number 2, yeah, and literally, like, I looked through. I mean, okay, I will admit, these past 2 years, for very obvious reasons, I didn't see all the movies I wanted to see. There's still quite a few movies. Even think about it right now, like Matrix Resurrections, the new Spider-Man, Power of the Dog. There's a handful of movies I still want to see. It could make my top 10. Who the hell knows? But these are the only 2 movies I can think of this year that I legitimately disliked, and that was number 2. We have Mortal Kombat. Just dropping the ball, man. Like I'm not even the biggest fan. I like Mortal Kombat quite a bit, but it's funny to me that, like, I don't know, they just mess it up so badly. Not that it's not rare. Obviously, video games are notorious for your video game adaptations are notorious for being lame and not standing up to the original video game. But in this case, they introduce way too much lore. They try to introduce all this build up to something that you don't really care about. The effects are pretty bad, surprisingly. Like, they just look weak. A lot of flat CGI. It never really builds up. Never really is as explosive as you want it to be. And a lot of the characters, like Jax and stuff, I don't know. They just didn't, like, give them enough oomph. There's not enough meat there for them to work on. Like I said, it just kind of throws all this lame lore at you, expecting you to care, and then gives you some okay fight scenes, and that's just kind of the movie.
It must have been bad because I didn't even remember it existed, and I had wanted to see it. When it came out, it was the biggest news. It was the biggest news. I think it was like one of the first HBO Max in theater movies. Yep. And it just died out very fast. When you say they tried to set up the lore, were they going in the direction of like, hey, we're going to make 40 of these movies like the G.I. Joe ones. Let's just make this an origin. And then like, they're probably never going to get funding for any other ones, you think?
Yeah, it kind of felt like that. They're trying to introduce you to all these characters, but they do it in such like a half-assed way. And then, again, they try to introduce lore about like what Mortal Kombat is, how it was created, and again, it's like, I think even like from the start, it's just a scroll of exposition, and that's when like, all right, like this movie's probably not going to be that smart. They're probably to spoon feed you everything, which again they try to, but I just don't care. Like, I just don't care about the world they're trying to create because they don't care or don't seem to care about building it themselves. So yeah, I just, it sucks because obviously, it's funny because now it seems like people are looking back on Paul W.S. Anderson's 95 movie in like a good light. People are like, oh, this is actually unique and has some cool effects. And, there's a long time where, his movies were always being slammed, but now they're kind of being looked at in a positive light. Even his Resident Evil movies are being looked at in a more positive light these days.
They need to make, and I'm checking this real quick. They need to make a Shaq Fu movie. Shaq Fu came out on the Sega. Do you remember that?
I have Shaq Fu. I have it on the Sega Genesis, literally.
Yep. It came out on the Sega Genesis, and last I knew it was on the iPhone. Yep. So, okay, you can download it on the iPhone. It's called Shaq Fu: A Legend Reborn, and it's literally...
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
It's Shaquille O'Neal Mortal Kombat, and that I would love to see, just as like a...
That'd be cool.
Let me see if I...
If they could pull that off, even if it was in like a Space Jam kind of way where they're just name dropping all this, I'd be all into it.
Wait, let's try to do a Shaq Fu impression. What would that sound like?
A Shaq Fu impression?
I'm gonna fight you. I'm gonna fight you right now. I'm gonna.
I'm gonna fight you with some ice out patch. Yeah.
I'm gonna DJ, and then I'm gonna throw some kicks and punches, and then I'm gonna fight you in my Superman bed. I don't know why there's so much to remember about Shaq, but I'll always remember on Cribs he had the biggest bed in the world as a Superman bed, and it was like 13 feet long or something like that.
Really? Oh damn.
Yep. All right, so you got Mortal Kombat. Was there? You said 2. Is there another one?
Yeah, and the only other one I can think of, and I guess overall I definitely dislike this one more, even though I didn't like Mortal Kombat. But Coming to America, the sequel to the original Coming to America, and again, a lame movie. Like, it sucks because you have, like, I'm trying to think. I don't know. It's been a while. I think the original came out in like 1988, so you've got all this time, and it's like finally we're putting out a new movie, and I guess that might never be a good sign when they're making a sequel to something that's like 30 years old, because it kind of seems like, all right, we want to revamp interest, we want to try and capitalize on something. But getting all the original cast members and creators, you're like, all right, this is probably going to be, they want to do something different, they want to do something new. But to me, this just fell flat. My roommate also, who he'll be on the podcast soon, he also, he loves the original, one of his favorite movies, so he was also incredibly crushingly disappointed by it. Just not that funny. Like, a lot of the jokes fall flat. And what I find interesting is that, the first one, the way they shot in New York City, like when Eddie Murphy, first enters, it's like this big thing, like, wow, we're in America finally, and like it's so cool seeing New York, especially in like the late 80s. But this movie, it literally just looked like they filmed it all on like green screen. Like, you can tell there wasn't a lot of like actual New York film scenes, which is disappointing, because that's such it's like again how we always talk about like environment as being a character. I almost feel that way about the original, but this one, it just doesn't hit.
It's not like you can't film in New York. It's not like it's like illegal or too expensive. No. Everything films in New York.
Literally. So it's like, I don't know. I just seemed like they didn't shoot it in a unique way, or way that really capitalizes on like what New York currently is like. That was disappointing. And also they just rehash, I feel like, a lot of the same plot points and jokes, but they try to do it in like a wink, like, remember this joke on the original? Now we're doing it again. And it's just cringy, like, every time they do it. So, yeah, like, I mean, I only had watched the original for the first time last year, so it's not like I've been, like, this lifelong
I've never
fan.
seen it.
But it's totally worth watching. Maybe that could also make for a good episode, too, because it's the original is so funny. It's so of its time, but it still has some pretty relevant topics. It's still pretty relevant to today. Yeah, I just not very good. And, those are the only two. And obviously, there's one movie, I didn't talk about. I know you're going to talk about.
You're a monster. This is a good transition. This is a good segue. I also want to point out, I just typed in Coming to America, CUM that way. And that was made into a porn parody movie.
Of course.
Yeah, that one's, it's just given. It's right there.
Right.
Yeah, okay. So I'm going to build up to the movie that you failed to mention in your top worst. Space Jam was awful. I mean, just truly awful.
Oh, I forgot about Space Jam. I didn't like that one either, really.
Yeah.
But I didn't hate it. I didn't hate it.
It was part of that, like, too long of movies. I mean, the thing about COVID is, like, SNL did a skit this weekend where it was Joe Biden saying the only reason for COVID is people going to see Spider-Man. Stop seeing Spider-Man. And, like, for me, when I look at movies, I want to go see an hour-and-a-half movie. I want to go see an hour-and-a-half movie because, one, I don't want to be out of the house for that long. I want to get home to my son, my dogs. I want to do whatever. I just want to do that. I don't want to be out for that long. I don't want to, I don't want to go see a 2.5 hour long movie. Also, movies don't need to be 2.5 hours long. You cannot go see any movies right now that are under an hour and a half. Disney movies, documentaries. There's a movie about the Foo Fighters recording at a famous studio, and then the devil comes out, and it's called like 666 Studios or something. It's like an hour and 50 minutes in theaters. Why? Anyway, Space Jam, far too long. That was another one of those movies that was probably around 2 hours. Yep. Very much like WB saying, look at all the movies we've made. These are all the movies we made. It was also like, it shows you that some actors are great as side members. I mean, LeBron was hilarious in Trainwreck. He's not great in a starring role because he's not a great actor.
Yeah, I agree. Because I feel like a lot of his line delivery was very much like I'm reading off a teleprompter, almost like, he's like, man, son, I'm sorry you don't feel this way, son. Yeah. It's just like,
but you don't want to play basketball? That's what we do, son. And it's just like,
we're a basketball family, and like, It sucks
Oh,
because I actually kind of like that plot. They were trying to like I like the idea
yeah,
that he's this mega successful, obviously the most well known basketball player, and he wants to almost like inflict that success onto his son who wants to be something else. Like that's a cool story. Like that's a
yeah,
cool little
yeah.
father son relationship. But yeah, no, his yeah, the more dramatic scenes at least he doesn't really reach those levels he's supposed to, and yeah, I
And
agree with that.
we talked about this last on our last episode, Home Alone. Watching newer movies, new retellings are cool because you get to go, oh, what's Home Alone like now that we have Siri? What's Home Alone like now that we have Uber delivering food to your door? Space Jam was cool in this new one because it was all about AI technology, and Don Cheadle committed to that role. I'm gonna
Yeah, he
give
was
him
probably the best part
props.
of it.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
but it just seems like they didn't reshoot anything. Like LeBron was just like, oh no, my son's got taken away by computers, and they're just like, nah, just cut it. Just let's get to the next scene. It's like they could have
Yeah.
had LeBron do like 2 or 3 takes and worked a little harder for it. But yeah, I thought Space Jam was so terrible. And the best review that I read about it was like, I mean, when they're playing the basketball game, there is, Pennywise and Batman and every WB character, Game of Thrones. And one of the reviews I read was it was like, it said it seemed like a bunch of extras showed up to be in the movies and were given costumes for the Penguin, for
Yeah.
Pennywise, for King Kong, and that's exactly what it seemed like. It seemed like
Oh, for
like
real.
when you go to like the Halloween store, Spirited Away, and it's like it's not the Joker, but it's like the Jokester or like Bat Guy. It seemed like they were
Yeah.
dressed up in those outfits.
Oh,
Like,
absolutely. Because actually, my roommate and we went back and like paused on some of the scenes where you could see the crowd, and literally like it's almost crazy that they had him in focus that much. Because like the Pennywise again looks like someone went to a Halloween store and bought a costume, or like, and I'm like, come on, like these are like bigger properties. Like you should hell at least do CGI for it, or do make it look more like legit if you're gonna show them like that much on screen.
and the mannerisms weren't down. It was like, hey, dress up in a penguin outfit and watch a basketball game. And it was just like somebody in a penguin outfit, like, and
Yeah,
it's like
literally.
that's not what Penguin does. So Space Jam is on there. Halloween Kills, I just was very
Ooh.
upset by.
Ooh.
I did not like it. It was also just another upset for me, where I was just like, I waited so long. I thought it'd be different. I thought Anthony Michael Hall's character was awful. I thought the whole entire I get it when you're in a movie where
Evil dies tonight.
yeah. He was on Celebrity Wheel of Fortune talking about that, and I was just like, I don't even want to watch this anymore. But no, I hated that, and it's like when you watch Jeepers Creepers, and you're just like, they can't destroy Jeepers Creepers. How are they gonna do this? Like, you really learn in this movie that Michael Myers is invincible. You can't kill Michael Myers, but like they all knew that, and then they all got killed, and it's just like.
Right.
It was just dumb, and everybody dies, and it's just like I don't know. I could not stand that. And let's build up to the worst movie of the year, if not the decade. M. Night Shyamalan's Old. I will argue with anybody how talented Lady Gaga is, even though her music is awful. I will argue with anybody how talented Justin Bieber is, because he is. John Mayer, best guitarist of our generation. I will argue with anybody about these things. I will argue with anybody that M. Night Shyamalan is one of the best. Was The Happening good? No. But he made Wayward Pines. He made The Visit, which were kind of his comebacks recently. He has that Apple TV show, Servant, which is doing phenomenal. Its second season. He has been back for a while. He is overall still one of the best. I was so excited for Old. Basically, M. Night was on vacation in France, and somebody gave him a book about these people go to an island and they get old, and he's like, I'm going to kind of add a twist to it and make my own movie about this. I waited a while for it. I mean, this August, I started to return to the movie theaters. I saw Free Guy, Suicide Squad. Maybe I watched it on TV. Free Guy. They were like, the new Saw movie, Spiral, Old. There was like 4 movies I saw in like a 2-week period that I'd really been waiting for. And Old was such a disappointment. And I told Tom, I have not been able to talk about it till now because a lot of people were like, LOL, it sucked. It was like The Happening. And I was too hurt to talk about how much I hated it. It was just...
Well, I mean, you also, I mean, You were so hyped for it.
So hyped. I mean, the trailers were fantastic. The cast was great. It was the story was there. Even the twist was there up until, let's just talk about it. It's basically about this pharmaceutical company that learns about an island where people age like a year every hour. So the pharmaceutical company targets people from like their pharmacy receipts. So you go to CVS and you go, oh, I have terminal cancer. Then you'll get an email saying, congrats, you won a free trip to an island. You know, that's cool. So you go to the island and they go, okay, you have this kind of cancer. You show up to the island, they give you a cocktail. And basically the pharmaceutical company was learning how to target these illnesses and draw out the lifespan. So that's what you find out at the end, that these pharmaceutical companies, the science lab, was bringing these people there and was actually reversing and helping, but all these people on the island were dying and becoming sacrifices to help modern medicine become what it was. And it's like, damn, on paper, that's fantastic. On paper, it's like, I hope they remake this movie in 3 years and do it right. I'd love to read it as a book, but it was just executed so poorly. And it was like The Happening all over again. It was just...
Yeah, I mean, so here's the thing. The reason I didn't include it on my worst of is because I don't know. I definitely want to watch it again because I only saw that one time. And my opinion of it really shifted throughout. Like when I walked out, I was like, oh, I actually kind of like that quite a bit. And then thinking about it more, I'm like, well, a lot of it's really stupid, doesn't add up. And for all the points you mentioned, I will say the few reasons I do still kind of like it and give it some credit is because, well, for one thing, I like the way it was shot. I think there was a lot of really unique camera angles, and just the general lighting of this. It looks really good for the most part, which I'll always give credit to. But also, I guess a big part of this movie was right, like building upon the existential threats, that the big existential threat of all these people knowing that they're now rapidly aging. So hell, it's an existential threat most people think about all the time. We think about our demise. We think about that we're getting older and we have perceived less time. So this movie, now that they know that they're literally aging years within minutes and whatnot, it creates this really unique sense of dread that I did feel watching it at times. Of course, that what tended to be offset by a lot more silly moments that M. Night is usually known for. I don't know. It's one of those movies where it's like, for me to hate something, I have to feel that there's truly like no passion involved. And like I mentioned, Mortal Kombat, Coming to America, those to me felt like movies that were just made to make money. They didn't really care about the source material. They didn't really care about trying to do anything unique. Old, at least, it seemed like M. Night was really trying something here, and again working with his usual really out there concept. But yeah, that's kind of the main reason I didn't include it on my worst of, and it's something I'll definitely give a rewatch. But I definitely see where you're coming from, for sure, because there's a lot about it that even when I was watching, I was like, oh, like that didn't hit as hard as it should have, or there's a lot of questionable stuff in the movie for sure. A lot of questionable scenes.
For me, the opening line of the movie, literally the opening line of the movie, the main family are on a bus to the island, and the daughter, Mackenzie Thomas, who's behind me, is singing, and the mom goes, "You have such a beautiful voice. I wonder what it'll sound like when you sing when you're an older person."
Yeah.
Oh, wonder what there's gonna be a scene in it where that happens, and yeah, it was the scene with the woman upside down and she was aging and her like bones were like, it could have been so creepy and so cool, and it was just like, and then M. Night Shyamalan had way too big a role in this movie.
Oh, yeah, big time.
Yeah. I was going to talk about it earlier when you were talking about Scream. I love how much the scary movies really stick to the Scream premise. And I just want to bring up, if anybody's looking for a good parody movie, there's a movie called Shriek, If You Know What I Did Last Friday the 13th. It came out around the same time as Scream. Did you ever see it?
No, I've heard of it. Never saw it though.
Carmen Electra, Coolio, and then Simon Rex, which I just want to point out. I cannot wait to see Red Rocket. I think
same.
I want to do an episode about it already. I've been following him for so long. I've seen him as a rapper a few times live, I've been following his career for so long. I can't wait to see it.
No, he's great. And fucking Sean Baker, man, great director. I love Florida Project. I love Tangerine. Yeah, very excited for that.
I can't wait to see it. So that would be my bottom. Yeah, bottom 5 would be old Space Jam, Halloween Kills, probably in that order. What about honorable mentions? And I want to point out as we get into my honorable mentions are probably like some of them might also be in my top 5. I'm still trying to organize in my head.
Yeah. Well, like I said, like at this point, like your top 5, it's flexible, but like ultimately the ones you choose, like those are like the best reflections of like what you really loved throughout the year.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll get into it now. Honorable mentions. I'll list off some now. Comment on what you want. I'll just list off a bunch. So honorable mentions. Now we're digging into best movies of the year. So honorable mentions, I have Titan, which I did talk about on one of the episodes.
Need to see it.
Really wild, fucked up French movie. Definitely want to see it again because there's a lot of questionable stuff in there that I just like need to see again. I have Adam McKay's Don't Look Up. Just watched this one. Really great. I think this is another movie that really showcases his good, his unique blend of comedy and drama. It's also a movie that speaks to the times, speaks to a lot of our fears and how our governments could potentially respond to an existential crisis. Very unique movie. Bad Trip. This was one that almost made my top.
Really?
Well, maybe not top 5, but I love Bad Trip. Honestly, one of the funniest movies of last year. Combined, obviously it was produced by the main guy from Jackass. I forget his name. Not Knoxville, but the Scott Rudin, is it?
Jeff Tremaine?
Where's Jeff Tremaine? I think it was produced by him. And obviously just seeing Eric Andre and all these people in these real life settings and doing these crazy little skits, it's too funny. It's such a funny movie, and I love how it combines this legitimate fictional story with actual pranks in real life is great. I have The New Wrong Turn. We had Mike P. Nelson, the director, on. Such a unique way to approach the series, because obviously at this point there's already been multiple Wrong Turn movies. It's like, how do you continue to make this fresh? And this to me is one of the best ways you could possibly do it. This also kind of just edged out of my top 5. I was highly considering putting in there. It's super good. It takes this seemingly normal slasher movie aesthetic and then flips it on its head and does something completely different. Awesome movie. Honestly, too, maybe the best ending of the entire year of 2021 as well. The ending that gave me satisfying, super cathartic, super violent, amazing. I also have The Tragedy of Macbeth, which I just saw recently. Joe Cohen directed it. Newest adaptation of Macbeth. Denzel's amazing in it. It's both minimal, but also still has plenty of beautiful cinematic moments. I loved it. Probably one of the better, honestly, maybe better adaptations of the play I've ever seen. I also have Antlers, which was something I didn't love as much as I wanted to, but still a pretty cool horror movie. I know you felt pretty similar, right? Like, not amazing, but like it was good. It was good enough for what it was.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't have it in my honorable mentions. I want to say I'd almost have it in between my best and worst. I did not like it. But I think, it's another movie that was pushed so long and I waited for years to see it. And it was Guillermo del Toro. And I think I just wanted more out of it. It was cool. Good cast. Interesting. Could set up sequels, but yeah, I didn't love it. I didn't love it like I wanted to. But okay. Sorry.
No,
go ahead.
No, I feel it. The reason I do include those is because I think the general aesthetic of it, the kind of like northwest, like Oregon, Washington setting, it's gloomy. Like, I love the setting of this movie so much, and I think generally it's a pretty like compelling story. But yeah, I just don't think it maybe takes enough chances to get to where it really needs to be. Still really good though. Still enough to mention. Also have Benedetta, the latest Paul Verhoeven movie. I mentioned this in the last episode, or 2 episodes ago, I believe.
What is it called?
Benedetta. Super wacky, like I said, sexy nun movie. I want to see it again. It's very unique.
Out of all of the super wacky, sexy nun movies, it's the best.
Oh yeah.
I've never heard of it.
Yeah, I didn't get too much. I didn't see too many ads or anything for it, but obviously, Paul Verhoeven, who's most known probably for making RoboCop, made it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, amazing movie. And then lastly, I just saw this yesterday, but again, I have to include it. West Side Story, which was great.
You liked it?
Yeah, it was great. Fantastic. Yeah. Like, I'm not the biggest musical guy. I don't really go out of my ways to watch a lot of musicals, but I still like them enough, and I had to see it. I mean, I love Spielberg, and obviously he's still making movies, so I have to go out and see it. And I mean, it was great. It's very similar to the original in a lot of ways, but in good ways, because there are shots in this movie that look straight out of the 60s, like even like the way it was shot and the lenses they used, it looked so good. Everyone's great in it. Musical numbers are fantastic. If you like the original, if you like the play, undoubtedly you'll probably like this one. But yeah,
I haven't seen the original. And this new one, it's not a big interest for me. I know it did really badly too.
Oh yeah, it definitely flopped.
It lost a lot of money. Yeah,
I think it was $100 million budget. It made like 57 million.
Not that it's a movie that could like open up a universe and have sequels or anything, but it definitely did not do very well for a Spielberg movie too. Yeah.
Well, I think because Ansel Elgort, he's been there's been a lot of pressure on him for a while. He's been like slightly on the edge of being canceled for quite some time. So that I know a lot of stories were brought up when this movie was being promoted, so I think that definitely hurt it a little bit. And, again, still being a pandemic, and I don't know, musicals just don't really sell that much these days. Like musical, and even though it's Spielberg and all these people involved, it's still something that, is hard to sell. And I mean, I personally wish it made, I wish it made more. I wish it was doing better, but yeah, just not, but it's still great though. And still, again, worth mentioning my honorable mentions. So those are definitely the ones that, again, would maybe make like top 10, top 20 or so, but just didn't quite make the top 5. But what are your honorable mentions of the year?
I think after Cats came out, nobody will ever trust a musical movie adaptation again.
I know. Everyone's like, all right, Cats came out, then a pandemic. They're like, fuck this. Yeah.
It's very related. Yeah, so like I said, my top 5, my honorable mentions, they might kind of change over the next few days. It was so hard for me to do, and I wanted to go back and like look at every Facebook post over the past year and like talk about look at every movie I watched or went and saw, or go back and listen to our 18 other episodes of our podcast to see what movies we covered. I would say honorable mention, I loved The Guilty, a Netflix original movie with Jake Gyllenhaal, pretty much one person, couple other actors on audio, couple other actors maybe in the background who had a line or two, but it was filmed during the pandemic. It was like filmed in like 13 days, just done completely with a small cast, small crew. Super tense movie. He plays a 911 dispatcher. He's actually a cop who got in trouble, and he's a dispatcher while he's like suspended from the force or whatever. Crazy twist, very very intense and heavy movie. Also one of those movies where you read about the actor needing like time off after doing it because it was like intense and a heavy kind of subject. Pig.
Oh yeah, I didn't mention that, but I have that one on mine too.
I was gonna say, I thought that would definitely be on yours. That's definitely on mine. Might even be in a top 5. I loved it. It was just, I was telling my family about it the other day, and I think your description of it was perfect. I said, what is it about? And you said, it's like John Wick, except he doesn't fight a bunch of people. It's just a realistic movie about people who come to terms with something that happened that they can't do anything about. And that's the best way to put it. It's not my typical kind of movie, it's just an hour and a half of dialogue and all of that. But it was just a beautiful movie. The whole scene in the Portland restaurant with the chef was, I think, one of the best scenes of a movie.
Oh, I agree with that. That scene is so good.
Fantastic. Like could be something that people study, in film school. Spider-Man, I'd say, was up there, just because it's fun. It did pay a lot of homage to everything. It was just cool to see everybody in it. I don't think it would be like my top 15 or 20 maybe. But I just really enjoyed it. And it was fun. I guess I liked it because it was fun to go back to the theaters again for such a big movie. It's the first $1 billion box office movie in the past couple of years during the pandemic. I think it's on par to become like the 4th highest grossing movie. Something like that. Army of the Dead, I loved. I mean, Zack Snyder, it was so fun. Tig Notaro, everybody in it was great. I'm excited for the sequels, the prequels. He's doing like an animated series. He's doing, a non-zombie prequel about one of the characters. Super fun movie, super twisted. And for such a lover of zombie movies, I just loved it because it just changes everything. They're fast zombies. They fall in love. They communicate with each other. They travel in a flock. Not in my top or anything, but when you and I were talking about everything being filmed in Boston, I started to about a decade ago read a Stephen King book called Cell that takes place in Boston. And I watched it recently. It was like free on IMDb TV. John Cusack, Samuel L. Jackson. Basically, anybody's on their phone at one time turns into like a zombie killer. So like they just pick up weapons and just kill everybody. And it's super intense. And then throughout the movie, they all travel like a hive. They travel in a pack. And they start like transmitting radio frequencies through their mouth. And it's like very creepy and very original and very spooky. Highly recommend it. Very under the radar movie. I know it's theatrical, but didn't play in many theaters. Anyway, Psycho Gorman. Psycho Gorman we talked about. Definitely in my honorable mentions. It was just so disturbing and twisted and unnecessary and fun.
It's amazing.
And it just was like, like when you and I go and see SpongeBob the movie or Encanto or whatever, there's always a lot of little kid humor, but then there's adult humor, and it, you pick up on that, and it makes you enjoy it as a parent or an adult, and it makes you go, oh, I appreciated this. It wasn't just me watching it with my kid so he'd be entertained. Psycho Gorman was for our generation. It was Power Rangers if Power Rangers was the most R-rated movie imaginable. I still quote Hunky Boys all this time. I still just like I can't get that out of my head. It was just such a cool movie. And just I know it made a lot of lists of top 20 horror movies of the year, which was super cool to see.
Well deserved.
Top 5. I don't feel like I have a top 4. I don't know. I really enjoyed the Suicide Squad.
Oh yeah, I would again. That's also honorable mention for sure for me.
It made up for the original. There's no doubt about that. I'm excited for the Peacemaker show, which just aired I think yesterday on HBO Max. Suicide Squad was just super fun, super funny. He had complete creative control and he used it. Half the people die in the first 5 minutes. You don't see that in a movie. I mean, there was just no holds bar. Never really used that phrase before. It was just super fun, and just the cast was fantastic, and it was a lot of fun, and it did what the last one was missing. I would say Free Guy is my top 5. I waited for that movie for years.
Wait, you said in your top 5?
One of those movies where you're top Free Guy.
Okay, I didn't know if after the honorable mentions, you want to just like we can each give our like maybe like I'll give my 5, you give your 5, I'll give my 4, you give your 4. Do you like that?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm starting. I guess I started my 5 already.
So your number 5 was Suicide Squad.
Yes, the Suicide Squad.
Okay,
be in my top 5. This is my top 5, kind of in order from least to favorite.
Yeah.
So number 5, the Suicide Squad. Number 4, Free Guy. I loved Free Guy. It was so creative, innovative, unlike anything ever done. I just rewatched Wreck-It Ralph the other day. If you were to compare it, it's kind of Wreck-It Ralph as a live action movie. Super fun, great cast all around the board. Very cool. If you haven't seen it, there's a lot to appreciate about the technology.
Free Guy,
have you seen it? I love the AI part of it and the development of the AI characters and the I loved all of that. I mean, people are building robots today and the robots are turning around and saying, destroy humanity. I mean, like, that's basically what this movie is what happens if these characters get that, what's it called? When you gain that recognition, the kind of, it's like existential.
I don't know the term for it.
Yeah, but basically, it was so fun as somebody who grew up playing Grand Theft Auto, and you always think about those background characters. Also, I live with the kind of idea that we're all in a video game, or we're all in a Matrix, we're all in a study of some sort, So just to kind of see that in this kind of way, I thought was good. But it was just like so funny. The whole cast was fantastic. And it wasn't just a movie about like a video game. Like there was so much to it, the love story behind it, the action, and it was just so funny. That was one of the first movies I saw back in theaters. I truly, truly loved it. I know Ryan Reynolds said it was like the most fun he's ever had working in a movie. He wants to like read video game movies now and make a few more. Wrong Turn is in my top 5. I think mostly because I loved it. I loved the original series, all of them. I love this. It's a 2-part movie. It's dark. It's twisted. It's realistic. If we really want to talk about it, there's nothing that's unrealistic to it. It could happen. Super dark, super gruesome in some parts. Definitely the best ending of a movie that I can remember in very recent memory. We had the director on, which was so cool. I'm gonna buy the DVD of my number 1. I'll bring up in a minute, but you know, it was so cool to buy the Wrong Turn DVD and watch all the features, and now I have it on my phone, and you know, it's cool to get back to that again. I'm glad they're still doing that I can, you know, watch the deleted scenes, put those pieces together, hear the commentary. I don't want to just go on YouTube and watch an interview or something. I want to like sit there and watch the bonus features. Don't Look Up, I think, is my number 2. Maybe because it's just one of the most recent movies that I watched, but it was filmed in the area that I live in. The cast is fantastic. The day the movie was announced, I knew that it was going to be a parody of COVID. You know, as soon as you hear the synopsis, 2 astronomers go on a tour to tell people the world's ending, you're like, this is just COVID. It's COVID, but with an asteroid hitting Earth. I mean, it was just... I think a lot of people who didn't like it thought it hit too close to home, and I don't think they're wrong.
It's a good pun.
I think that that's accurate. Yeah, it was COVID. I mean, the hats. They had the red hats with, they didn't say Make America Great Again, but they had the red hats. And then Jonah Hill talking about how sexy his mom, the president, was Trump talking about his
that was the
daughter.
thing. Like, he very much was like one of Trump's sons almost. He had that vibe going for him for sure.
Well, Trump talking about his daughter and how he would marry her if it wasn't his daughter. I mean, Jonah Hill at one point goes like, "Give it up for my mom, the president. Isn't she sexy? I'd sleep with her if she were my mom." And like, so it was so creative, definitely. But it was also just, it was co-written by one of the Bernie Sanders campaign writers, I believe. So it was just a parody in itself. Adam McKay's so good at doing political. Tyler Perry and Cate Blanchett were phenomenal. Ariana Grande playing Ariana Grande was great. Kid Cudi. You know, I hate clickbait articles, but there's a couple clickbait articles going around about how Jennifer Lawrence couldn't stand filming with Jonah Hill, and the only reason is because he was so funny. I mean, they did a whole day of Jonah Hill improving insults at Jennifer Lawrence. They did a whole filming day of that. So, I mean, I love that. I love the ending. Everybody dies at the end. It's just super realistic. America pulls out from our allies at the last second. The world ends because of it. The last scene of everybody dying at the table. The post-credit
scene was funny as fuck.
I mean,
I loved it.
Funny as fuck. I mean, it was a newer version of Idiocracy, which is one of my favorite movies. And it was just like, you know, they brand the movie as based on a true story that hasn't happened yet, and I just think that is very accurate. So I loved it. Truly loved it. It was hard to watch. I spent a lot of the time laughing and a lot of the time just like looking at my family. I watched over Christmas break, just like, oh, this is kind of funny, but like hits home a lot. So it was very, very hard to watch because we're still living through that. You know, it's not 10 years later where you can show your kids and be like, we lived through a similar time. It was everything that has been happening, is happening, will be happening.
Yes, and I got to point out too, like, you know, I was afraid going to the movie that it was going to be like almost like basic Twitter politics. It was going to be like, this is what the left did, this is what the right does. But really, like you were mentioning, it's more about the public's reaction, about the media's reaction to it, how they try to downplay the severity of an existential threat like this. And, you know, I think obviously the movie's called Don't Look Up because it kind of becomes this like slogan of the president, who she's trying to completely dismiss the idea that the asteroid's coming. So all of her followers, you know, don't look up, deny the evidence. And like you were saying, it almost hits too close to home. It's like we have so many people right now in our society that, you know, we and obviously great, we should always question everything we see, obviously, but there's just kind of some truths out there that people don't want to accept, or we want to pretend that something isn't as bad as it really is. So all that was very much like true to life. And I enjoyed, and obviously Adam McKay was able to satirize that in a very unique way for sure.
And it wrote itself. I mean, don't get me wrong. It wasn't poor writing. It wasn't a remake. It wasn't based off of anything except for life. It was all just there. It all wrote itself. It's like, hey, what happened when we first brought up COVID? Well, I don't know. Everybody disregarded it because Kim Kardashian got divorced to Kanye. And it's like, oh, Ariana Grande, Kid Cudi. Like,
yes.
Everything in it was just so... But, I mean, all the way up to the end of them landing on the planet with the aliens and like everything ties back to it, and like the fact that they brought that in because they said Meryl Streep was gonna die by whatever those creatures were called, and it's just and when Meryl Streep calls up Leonardo DiCaprio and says, hey, we have a shuttle with 2,000 people on it, we built it in case our plan failed, and he goes, of course you did, like of course the billionaire is going to space, and then she goes,
sorry, I was just say after that scene happened, or actually after the movie ended, because I watched it with my parents, I was like, the first thing I thought of, I'm like, how much do you want to bet that that already exists? There's already a ship that could send like a couple hundred or 1,000 people out into space, and obviously who would be on that? The rich people, everyone, all the important people in government. Like that has to already exist as we speak. Like,
oh yeah, it already is, with everybody going up to space now and exploring just for. And I love that meme going around that says in 2027 we'll have a space hotel with a movie theater, and somebody just wrote, I just want free healthcare, or like I just want affordable healthcare. But yeah, I love that. And when Meryl Streep asked Leonardo DiCaprio if he wants to go on, he goes, no, I'm good. I was gonna have dinner with my family. So I love that movie, and I do understand why it was hard to watch to a lot of people. I do understand that. So that is definitely understandable. If you didn't like it, I would understand. I would understand where you're coming from if you didn't like it. So that would be, I think, in order 5, 4, 3, 2, and then my number one movie of the year would be Last Night in Soho. I saw it in theaters.
Yeah, I saw it in theaters.
I forget. Okay, I saw it in theaters. Came home, rented it a few weeks later for $20 and showed it to somebody. I'm buying the DVD. I think it comes out this week. I'm buying the DVD for like $30. I'm buying Blu-ray, HD, ultraviolet, bonus features. It was, I think, one of those movies where it normally wouldn't interest me terribly. But I think that there was just something about it that really, really did it for me. And I don't often watch movies and say, this deserves best costume design, this deserves best setting, this deserves best soundtrack. But this movie stuck out in so many ways. It's such a twisted horror movie, ghost story. There's great twists. There's a great cast, Malcolm McDowell. It's just fantastic. The music is fantastic. When she first comes out, and there's the Sean Connery movie,
oh yeah, I think it's for one of his 007 movies, and yeah, the needle drops. It has some of the best of the year for sure.
The set design is just incredible, and I mean, it's so dark and it's so twisted, and it's like those like lower. I guess I would compare it to those movies like Raw. What happens when a girl goes to school and some stuff happens? Or like, what happens when a normal person... And it's just like, it's that, but it's big budget. It's on the big screen. It's dark. It's twisted. The opening scene where she sees the ghost of her mom, and you're like, okay, she has something. She has a shot. She has The Shining. She has that. I just thought that it was just fantastic. It leaves you guessing until the end, and it's so dark and creepy and original, and the fact that it's done by the guy who did Baby Driver and the Simon Pegg movies. Yep. I mean, it's just, I wonder when he wrote it. I wonder if this is one of those things he always had and had to prove himself in one way or another. But it's my favorite movie of the year. It's just beautiful and creepy and terrifying and fun and scary, and I can't stop thinking about it. I keep wanting to rent it for $20 here and rent it for I just loved it. I can't wait to watch it so many more times. I don't know. It's so hard to explain why I loved it. It's just original. It's original. And, I loved Don't Look Up, and I loved Wrong Turn because of how realistic they were, that they could happen. But this is so unrealistic, but it was just so cool. And I think it's, we're all nostalgic for a time that we once lived in. and we're all nostalgic for a time we never lived in. All of us want to go back to want to live in the 60s. Free love and Woodstock and hippies, and you didn't have all the bullshit you have today. Like our parents talked about, you had it lucky. You could Google, the Eisenhower administration. It's like, I don't want to Google those things. You got to go to libraries.
Oh yeah, and the 60s, like especially the late 60s, I think movies like this, and even like Once Upon a Time in America, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, they make this time period, like you said, look like so good, like that the free love movement and like the hippies and the music. Obviously, like late 60s had some of the best music ever made, so it's like,
yeah, the soundtrack of this movie
definitely one of the best
unreal.
of the year. And I, again, didn't mention it. I'd also put this in my honorable mentions for sure. Didn't quite crack my top 5, but yeah, I loved it as well. And Edgar Wright's such a great director. And it's cool that he's now experimenting. He's done plenty of physical comedy with, like you said, the Simon Pegg, Nick Frost movies. But between, Baby Driver got a little bit more cinematic, and now this is his like foray into like horror, more like horror and Gallo. And I would even say, if this being your favorite of the year, you should definitely like seek out like older movies from like Dario Argento or like Mario Bava. Like those guys, like this movie feels inspired by the movies they made back in the day. Yeah.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, and the cast, Mackenzie Thomas.
Oh, she's
been around for a
fantastic in this
while
too. Yeah.
Fantastic. Anya Taylor-Joy, Malcolm McDowell, Matt Smith.
Oh yeah,
I think
Doctor
his
Who.
name is.
Yeah, he's good in this.
Just,
I like his character in this too. Yeah, everyone's great.
He's in a lot of upcoming stuff. Yeah, so that would be my list. I'd say 5 Suicide Squad, or maybe Pig. Both of them were just so good. 4 Free Guy, just for how innovative and original and fun it was. Wrong Turn, because of just I've been following the movies for so long and I love them, and they're just, it's such a different retelling, and the fact that they brought in the original writer. I mean, I think you and I have that vision too, and that dream of like, you and I want to write horror movies. How cool to be if when we're 50 somebody's like, hey, you want to go back, you want to rewrite it, you want to reinvent the wheel. You're like, hell yeah. Don't Look Up, because of the cast, the humor in it, the dark comedy, the brilliance, the politicalness, but not the Twitter politics, like you said. It's not obvious. It makes fun of liberals and Republicans. It makes fun of everybody. It pokes fun. And then Last Night in Soho, just for how original and dark it was. And it's a very scary movie. Very scary. And I mean, just like I said, I can't tell you any movies that I was like, the costume design is fantastic, or I can't tell you the times I've been at the Oscars and was like, that did deserve set design, or that did deserve soundtrack of the year. But like, this movie just so much stuck out to me that I was just like, blown away by. And that is my official top
that list.
5.
So yeah, and no, I mean, those are all great picks. Obviously, like I said, a lot of those either... No, actually, so none of those were... That's kind of cool. We have completely different top 5s, which is cool. We have a lot... You might have mentioned some stuff, though, that's in my top 5. So I guess I'll get to that now. But number 5, I have Nobody, which obviously is the Bob Odenkirk action vehicle that came out earlier in the year. I'm forgetting the director's name. It's like Ila Nesholer, I think. I don't know how to pronounce that director's name, but he previously made Hardcore Henry, I believe, which I never saw that one. It looked cool though, because obviously it was all POV style action movie, but Nobody. Yeah,
it's hard to watch.
I've heard. But Nobody, to me, also produced by main creator of the John Wick movies, what's his name? Derek Kolstad, I believe. This movie is just kind of like balls to the wall action movie. It has a pretty basic premise. It's really just Bob Odenkirk is kind of like an everyday family man, but he used to be one of the top like hitmen in the entire world. Has kind of put that aside, created a new identity, but he's kind of dragged back into that, both by his desire to kind of break the mundane lifestyle he's found himself in, but also to kind of relive his old former glory days. But obviously, because of this, he gets into deep trouble with the Russian mob who want to come after his family. So this whole movie is dealing with him trying to stop the Russian mob from taking him and his family out. And it's just incredibly fun. It has some of the best action of the year, straight up. It's incredibly well shot. There's a couple like really crazy fight scenes, hand-to-hand combat, where Bob Odenkirk did a lot of his own stunts. And also, like we were just talking about last night, Soho have an amazing soundtrack. This as well has a lot of old school 40s, 50s, 60s music in here. A lot of great needle drops for sure. Some of the best I've seen all year. And also a great cast. Bob Odenkirk's incredibly funny in this. And again, can juggle drama and comedy pretty damn well. You also have RZA. He comes in at a couple key moments in the movie.
Oh, cool.
Oh yeah, he has some awesome scenes at the end. Trying to think who else is in this movie. Christopher Lloyd, he plays his father, which is awesome. That was unexpected.
He's in the Tender Bar. He's beautiful. Great in that too. Let me ask you this about Nobody, because I haven't seen it. I think it's super cool to see like Bob Odenkirk, a sketch genius in it, and like I haven't seen all of Better Call Saul, but he never had any action in Breaking Bad. He didn't really have a lot of action in Better Call Saul. It's so cool to see him really break out into this. But I have one question. I watched another trailer for it recently, and I remember seeing that I originally thought that it was a guy who didn't have a background who wound up doing all of that. Like, don't you wish that there was a movie where it's like somebody wasn't a CIA operative or sniper in the past, and now he's coming out of, retirement? I just want to see one movie about like a dad or mom who's really pissed, Taken's not
what's
that either.
movie? I forget what the hell that movie's called. It's with I'll have to look it up. Michael Douglas, Falling Down, I think, right? Isn't that kind of situation where it's like an everyday man and he just kind of breaks and starts doing crazy shit? That's like one of those kind of movies. But I agree, though. Like, to me, this movie is incredibly cathartic. Watching Bob Odenkirk, completely beat on a bunch of Russian mobs in a bus is so satisfying. Also, one of the best fight scenes of the year, I'd say one of the best bus fight scenes next to Shang-Chi. That movie also had an amazing bus fight scene. Yeah, Shang-Chi was good. Also, other actors in this movie, Michael Ironside, he's in this. He's really good. A lot of great actors in this movie. But no, to me, one of the best straight up action movies of the year. It takes a relatively simple plot, but it's able to add all these little additions that make it something more unique. So, Nobody, a good way to start off my list. Number 4, I have Dune. I love this, man. Like, I was excited for it. Denis Villeneuve. I love saying that French name. Yeah.
Bless you.
Yeah, Villeneuve. Yeah. He's a great director. I think he's one of our best directors today. Obviously, he came out into the scene with movies like Prisoners and Enemy and Arrival back in the last decade, and that got a lot of attention. And then obviously he has now had a foray into just really expansive, crazy sci-fi movies like Blade Runner 2049, which was really good, and now Dune. And here's the thing: I didn't know anything about Dune really. I'd never seen the David Lynch adaptation. I've never read the books. Had a really basic understanding of this movie, and I'm sold. I want to read the books now. I want to go back and watch David Lynch's version. I think that this exists in its own realm, almost like Star Wars and Star Trek does, where it's just this massive space opera. That's obviously the image behind me if you're watching the video now of one of the shots in the movie. It's one of the best looking movies I've maybe ever seen, honestly. It's expansive in all the right ways. It captures the desert in such a beautiful way. And I think the space politics of it all, it works. Like it's to me, it's not even really boring, because at its basis, you have Paul Atreides, who is played by Timothée Chalamet, and his family, is a ruling power, but they're being overtaken by the Harkonnen, who are kind of the major imperialist force that are taking out, everything and everyone. And I don't know, the way it plays out in such an epic way. I've almost compared this experience to that of Avatar, where like watching this in IMAX was crazy. Like, it was just this immersive experience. Like I said, the fact that they shot a lot of it on actual locations, they used a lot of props. Oh, cool. It looks amazing. It's one of the best looking movies I've ever seen. I can say that confidently, and I'm excited for part 2 now that that's been officially confirmed. So
I feel like I need to see it in theaters. Like, it's a movie I have no interest in seeing
why?
all, but like I would go see it for it. Why? I don't care for space operas. I don't care for Timothée Chalamet. I enjoyed him a lot in Call Me by Your Name.
He's great in that, yeah.
And Don't Look Up. This cast is fantastic.
She's amazing, and
Oscar Isaac
and Stellan Skarsgård. He's really creepy as like the head of the Harkonnen, and it's cool, man. It's like you watch it and you see the passion, and you just see like how much went into it. It's very cool.
Once I learned it's like the tremors in it were not like the main antagonists, and that wasn't a big part of the movie, I was kind of like, eh. Like I want to go see like an IMAX movie
That'd be
of
cool.
Tremors.
Yeah.
Like,
No, I hope they bring it back.
yeah.
I my guess when they release part 2, that I guess hopefully they'll put part 1 back on, and I would definitely seek it out, man, because
Yeah.
I really think it's up there with like Avatars as far as like just immaculate like viewing experience. So Dune is my number 4. I loved it. Very excited for part 2. Number 3, I don't know if this will surprise you or not, but I put Psycho Gorman at number 3. I fucking love this movie, and I think you're the reason I even know about it. Because I
Really?
think you back because I think Psycho Gorman might have been the first or second episode we did of 2021. Might have even been the first, and I didn't really know much about it. I think I'd seen like an ad, I'd seen like a write up of it somewhere, people talking about it, but I just didn't really pay much attention. And then you mentioned it, and yeah, I was so surprised by it. It was just like you said, this hyper like Power Rangers meets ET meets like Beethoven. I don't know. I mean, it's like all these like late 80s 90s movies almost merged into one crazy gory movie, and I loved it. I loved every bit of it. It's
The the
oh,
prosthetics,
yeah.
the
Oh my
animation, the monsters. I mean, the fact that I would just imagine the director had complete creative control. I mean,
well
they did not hold back. I can't imagine what was cut.
well
from
here's
this
something that's
movie.
unique. The director Steven Kostanski, I was looking into his filmography. He hasn't directed, well, he has directed a decent amount, but he's mainly a makeup effects guy. So he's worked on like Hannibal. He's done multiple special effects on the show Hannibal. He actually did special effects and makeup for Suicide Squad, the one that came out in 2016. He worked on it. He's worked on Star Trek Discovery. Um, he's done makeup and special effects on a multitude of TV shows and movies, which makes a lot of sense now. You know, looking at Psycho Gorman, because this movie is just filled with some of the most creative and weird like prosthetics and character designs and sets I've seen it in quite some time. And it's cool because this movie, you can kind of tell it's on the lower budget, but it utilizes its resources better than like most movies, I feel like, where it's like, it's okay, why does this movie look cooler, is more gruesome and weird than a movie that costs $100 million, you know? I was sold, you know. And again, you have this sadistic little girl at the center of it all who controls Psycho Gorman, who's, you know, arguably the most powerful being in the universe. So she wields this amazing power, but she's such a little, you know, like she's just this little bratty kid who's mean to everybody. And the movie's also cruel. I actually like just how cruel it is. It's like yeah,
The
like it doesn't hold
parents.
back. Things happen to characters. Like this one kid's turned into like a brain and just is never turned back into his human self. And yeah,
It's not even
he's, like, he
addressed.
wonders. He's like, oh, he's like, can you turn me back now? And like, you're like, well, I guess she could. I guess she could ask Psycho to Gorman to do that, but she's just that sadistic that it's like, nope. Um,
Great ending too.
hell, it's
Great
actually the ending is almost
Um,
like Don't Look Up. Like the world's just being destroyed,
Yeah.
you know, and like it's just so
Yep.
creative. It's one of the most creative movies I've seen of all of last year. I had so much fun with it. I had to make the list.
I So it sounds like you're saying, listen to Mikey Wheel. He has great recommendations. Watch all
Yeah.
the movies he talks
I mean, hell,
about.
you all
Verbatim.
yeah.
That's
No,
what you
I mean,
just said.
shit, all the shows you recommend too have all slapped. So like, I'm all about it. Hell yeah, Psycho Gorman number 3, number 2. I have Spencer, and this is one that like, I don't know. For a while, I was like, I don't even know if I was gonna have it in my top 5 or not. But to me, it was one of those theater experiences where I walked out and I was like, that was amazing. New Pablo Larraín movie. He also made Jackie a couple years back, and this one obviously stars Kristen Stewart as Princess Diana, and it's a fascinating bio because it's not like it isn't follow her from a childhood into adulthood into where she became Princess Diana. It really just follows her, I believe, in like 1991 or 1992, in this sort of fictionalized account of like what would have happened over the course of a weekend. So it's a really unique take on portraying Princess Diana, but I think it worked effectively because rather than just being kind of like a pinpoint, like, all right, this is what she did when she was this age, this is what she did when she was this age, we kind of get to just follow her during one specific moment in her life where she's feeling just so pressured by her family and struggling with certain mental health problems, and her kind of deciding to end her marriage to Prince Charles, kind of all that's addressed in this movie. And I just love what it was going for. Kristen Stewart's amazing. She really embodies this real life person incredibly well, especially if you go back and kind of watch interviews with Princess Diana. It's very uncanny. The way this is shot, I think it's definitely shot on film. And I don't know, the way they shoot the castle that they live in, I mean, it makes the castle look, it's surrounded by fog. It looks like it exists in a world of its own. And it almost plays out like a psychological horror movie of sorts. It's fascinating, a very, very unique way to approach, again, like a real life person. And maybe some people have pointed out that it's kind of weird that they went in that route, but I think it was done respectively and done in a pretty unique manner that still, isn't bashing. Well, if anything, this movie is kind of bashing the royal family. It's making them look like the most kind of stuck up, oppressive people imaginable. But I don't know. I got a lot out of this movie. I thought it was really fascinating, just to watch Princess Diana deal with not conforming, even though she kind of has everything anyone could ever want, right? She has prestige, she has good looks, she has money, all the food, everything she can want, but still dissatisfied for having to conform to a lifestyle she never chose. And the movie is incredibly well acted, looks amazing. I love all the psychological implications of the movie. It's one that's really stuck with me, so that's my number 2. And then my number 1, I don't know if you might have guessed it already, because I just saw this movie, but like right when it ended, I was like, that's my favorite of the year, and that's Licorice Pizza, Paul Thomas Anderson's movie. And actually, our prior guest who we had on last year, or actually no, I think 2020, Mark Finney, who came on for Uncut Gems, this is also his favorite of the year. And call me a Paul Thomas Anderson stan, fanboy, whatever, like, because I generally... Watching the last time he made it on my favorite, or my number 1 favorite, was for The Master back in 2012. That was my favorite of the year. But no, this movie is just great. It's fascinating because there's been a lot of talk about the moral implications of the movie, about how it's a 15-year-old boy with this 25-year-old girl, and it's funny to me because there's been like side chatter about this is a problematic movie, but I kind of digress because. Well, for one, the moral implications of a character shouldn't determine like how the director feels or how we should feel watching it. Like, obviously, if you watch a movie about murderers, if you watch a movie about Goodfellas, obviously it's not saying, because you watch this, you endorse killing or you endorse gangsters. So I feel the same way about this movie, and it's addressed many times. Like, when they first meet, Alana, she's taking school pictures, and again, Cooper Hoffman comes up. He's really interested in her, and he's he's talking big game about how he owns his own business and all that. And she's just like, "Who are you, this 15-year-old kid? Come on!" And he invites her out to dinner, and she's like, "No, I'm not going out with a 15-year-old." So it's already addressed right from the start that she's kind of like surprised that a 15-year-old kid is doing all of this, and she's kind of weirded out by it. But she inevitably goes on the date because she's just intrigued by his maturity, and really the whole movie isn't even really a romantic relationship. It's more of almost like a budding friendship, but also one of interest. Like it's two characters who are both really intrigued by each other. Cooper Hoffman, I think, like he's great in this movie. He plays I don't know, he plays this kind of character perfectly. He's just kind of this whiz kid who is like helping his mom with multiple businesses. He's also a child actor. And then Alana, who is this kind of mid-20s girl who doesn't really know what she's doing with her life, very confused. So I think there's a lot of intrigue. She's interested, for what Cooper's doing, but she's also maybe kind of jealous of the fact that he's 15 and he already is kind of running his own business and a kid actor. The movie looks amazing. It's in the pantheon of like movies set during the 70s that like make you really feel like you're there. Obviously, I wasn't alive in the 70s, so I can't say for sure that it was how accurate it was, but it looked amazing. It really made you feel like you were in that time, just like something like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood did. And also shot on 35 millimeter. It looks beautiful. Everyone's great in this movie. You even have some big actors like Bradley Cooper in the mix, and Sean Penn and singer-songwriter Tom Watts. All these people who come in for these little bit parts, but like leave a lasting impression. They all leave an impression both on the characters and on you as an audience member. Super funny. There's just a handful of great moments in this movie, and really like I've seen that this movie is described as a hangout movie because you're really just following Alana and Cooper throughout this whole thing as they just weave in different scenarios, running different businesses, going on dates, going to rehearsals for television shows and movies. And I don't know, it's fascinating. It's just a really fun watch, seeing this relationship unfold and how, again, they're each wanting different things from it, because again, it's a lot more complex than just being attracted to each other, which I think is what some people are missing when they say that it's creepy and that it's a 25-year-old girl like being a predator towards this 15-year-old kid. Also amazing music too. I haven't even listened to the soundtrack on my own yet, but there's a lot of great needle drops in this. And I don't know, it's one of those movies that like it made me feel great to be alive, like just to be alive in general. Like I just walked out of them like this is why I go to movies, like something that again it can challenge you, because the whole aspect again of this kind of relationship does kind of challenge your moral implications, but it's also just kind of a beautiful movie and showcases Southern California in such a nice light and in this decade in such a unique light. And I was really just infatuated with it all, and it's one that has stuck with me since I saw it last week. And again, I just kind of knew right from the bat, like, yeah, this is it. This is my favorite. And I love when that happens. It doesn't happen that often, but there's times when you just watch something and you're like, yeah, this is just one of the best things I've ever seen. But yeah, Licorice Pizza, number 1, Paul Thomas Anderson for life, baby. Yeah.
It's funny because I have friends who saw French Dispatch and Licorice Pizza, and they're like, nothing happened in either of the movies. And I'm like, but that's who Paul Thomas Anderson and Wes Anderson are. They're like, oh, there was just people talking for 2 hours. I'm like, that's why you guys love these movies. What did you expect?
It's like nothing happens, but everything happens. That's what I always say. Like, yeah, there is no like defined plot, and there is no, it's again, that's why I said it's more of a hangout movie. But there's all these little moments that add up to a lot. It's like there is one moment in Licorice Pizza where they're delivering water beds. That's like one of their business models. And it's taking place, I guess, at a time they frame it where like gas at this particular time in California was really hard to come by. Like gas stations were running out of gas constantly. So the truck they're driving runs out of gas and they're on top of a hill. So Alana's driving and she puts it in neutral and just drives the truck backwards down a hill. And it's so funny. Like there's like no music playing when it's happening, but like she's just being so intricate in handling the truck as she's driving it down the hill backwards. It's one of the greatest scenes out of anything I've seen all year. It's so good. So there's just moments like that all add up to a whole, and it's great. You feel like these characters are very different people by the end of the movie. Things do happen, but yeah, I get that. Like I do understand watching this movie and be like, what was that? Like what did I just watch? What was that about? Why?
Well, I gotta say, one, I thought that the weird relationship was, I thought she winds up with, and she might still, I thought she wound up with Bradley Cooper and he was way older than her. That's what I thought the creep. I didn't know she was old. Yeah, I don't know much about it. I only want to see it because I love the band Haim.
They're great.
I saw them at Red Rocks.
Oh, by the way, she is so good. It's crazy because the two main actors in this, Cooper Hoffman, obviously he was, son of Dustin Hoffman, so he had an actor as a father, but still, Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Philip Seymour, right?
Did I say Dustin Hoffman?
Okay, I was gonna say
that could be his grandpa. Okay, so yeah, you have Cooper Hoffman, who has been in this is like the only thing he's been in Alana, who's like this is the only movie she's really been in, and they're both fantastic. Like I guess that's what happens when you have talent, like generally just talented people and a really good director. You can still get in. And again, like they hold their weight. They all have scenes with Bradley Cooper. They all have scenes with Sean Penn. They hold their weight. Like they're just that good. Which is such a good quality in and of itself. So see it if you can, man. Like it's so good.
I was trying not to respond too much while you were talking, but I have some homework to do. I have not seen Nobody.
Oh man, that's right up your alley.
Is it an hour and a half?
I think it actually is. I think it's under 2 hours, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm in. Dune, I'll watch.
Like I say, Dune
Psycho
is worth being like 2.5 hours. That one, it earns. That's another thing I didn't really mention earlier when you were talking about the length of movies. I mostly agree, but some movies do earn it. And the thing is, I'm not even against. I like 3-hour movies if they're warranted. Titanic. Great movie. Great example.
That's it.
That's just Titanic.
That's
the only movie that can ever be 3 hours long. Lord of the Rings. Come on now. Like, what?
Ugh.
Ugh.
What are you, one of those nerds who spends like Friday to Sunday watching every Lord of the Rings movie?
Maybe. Shit. No, I love Lord of the Rings, dude. I've seen those movies multiple times now. Shit. Like, all extended. Every time I watch them, I watch extended.
The new TV show better be fantastic because it cost $1 billion.
Oh, I'm sure it's going to be good.
In poverty right now and the world's ending, so you would hope it's going to be a freaking good movie
Better be.
or TV show. So Psycho Gorman, I'm going to buy a DVD soon. I believe the big DVD package
Yeah, I got
is
it.
called like the Hunky
It's
Boy edition.
You can buy it on
you did?
the production's website. You can buy it right on there, and it was a little bit more, but it was worth it because you get little cards with it. You get a really nice case with it. It has a really good amount of special features too. I was happy to buy that for sure.
I want a video game. I want an animated series. I want
a
comic book.
An animated series would be great if it was like presented in that of like a child's cartoon, but it was just really violent.
Like Aqua Teen Hunger Force.
It would be. Oh, it would do so good on an Adult Swim show. Psycho Gorman. Oh my god, that should be a thing.
Yep. Spencer, I've not seen. That is not a movie that interests me, but I do really love Kristen Stewart. I love how she goes from indie to big budget to indie to big budget. Like I love that. She lived in France for like 6 years because she was like, fuck it, I'm gonna go do this. I love her. I think she's super cool and badass. And then Licorice Pizza, you and I almost saw a few weeks ago. I do want to see that for the cast. So I've only seen 20% of your top 5. That's crazy. And yeah, that's funny. But yeah, I think so I think what we should do is in a week or so, let's create these lists and we'll post them on our social media.
That sounds like a good idea.
Well,
I can make a graphic or something too, maybe, like that incorporates both of our lists because I guess
a Venn diagram.
Yeah, Venn diagram. Yeah, I make a bar graph. We'll do it all.
Yeah, because we do have some similarities.
Yeah, we do, but I guess kind of wrapping up now. Like, any final thoughts on just 2021 as a year in movies overall? Like, satisfied overall, and what'd you think?
I know Oscars are coming out soon. I haven't even really looked through the nominations much. I know the Oscars are barely going to be an event. I know the Golden Globes already passed.
Well, no, for a second, like literally like a second, Pete Davidson was supposed to host the Oscars, and that just like completely dropped off. Yeah. Which I thought that
was a joke.
Maybe it was, but I saw articles and it was like, yeah, Pete Davidson in talks to be a host on the Oscars. And personally, I was like, fucking do it, because like, who else are you gonna get at this point? Like, Cate Blanchett, I don't fucking know. Like,
oh my god, he would just show up and be so high and be like,
all right, we're gonna talk about the next movie over
here. Paul Thomas Anderson.
Licorice Pizza, what?
Staten Island. I'm so high, I would eat licorice pizza. I love Pete Davidson. I'm just saying, I think he's great on SNL and in stand-up, but probably not for hosting 2 hours of the Oscars. I want Ricky Gervais to just always be the Oscar host, just always. And of course, Tina Fey and Amy Poehler for the Emmys, but I would say Ricky Gervais. I really want to watch the new season of his show Afterlife.
Yeah, I've heard good things.
His TV shows have always been fantastic, and talk about dramedy coming from like a big time comic. Derek was in a fantastic show he did.
That one looks good.
Afterlife is really good. Yeah, I mean, his stuff is not like raunchy and funny when it comes to his TV shows. They're just like very vibrant, and also one of the main stars of Ted Lasso was in his TV show. Derek. Yeah, before that's a cool story. He wrote for Ted Lasso, and he was in LA flying back to England. He had just wrapped up writing Ted Lasso, I think like the first couple episodes, and he auditioned. He recorded himself playing Roy and sent it to the other writers, and was super embarrassed and was like, I think I'd like to play Roy. Check out this video. If you don't like it, that's fine. And sent it to them, and they were like, yep, and he became Roy on the show, and now he's
which is awesome. He's a great actor too. So
yeah, well deserved. So that is our wrap up. Definitely, if you're listening, you have a lot of homework for TV shows, for movies. Also, don't be afraid to ever message us. I had a friend who had COVID recently. I sent her a long email of my favorite comedy specials. If you ever need recommendations, Tom and I are basically like the people who work at a video store where you can be like, you know what? I loved Platoon, but I want it to be better graphics. What do you recommend?
Yeah, I mean, shit, like, we try to keep our
Like-
social media pretty active as far as like posting episodes, and if you're watching this on YouTube, comment below. What do you think of our top 5? Post your top 5. What were your favorites of the year? Or if you're not on YouTube, if you're listening, find our post about this episode on Facebook, comment on there too. Like, engage with us for sure. Yeah, like we love that. That's kind of a hope, I guess, for this year. We can kind of create a more engaging audience, people that are commenting a little bit more, maybe give us some ideas, and hell, maybe even take some recommendations for episodes too. So
yeah, if you want to come on and talk movies, if you're making a movie, if you have a cousin who made a movie, we always are looking for guests. Let's thank our sponsors real quick. Water,
good old Water,
Trees, and our actual official sponsor, Ridgelight Studios, run
Shout
by
out to
my
Ridgelight.
friends. Check them out for your photography needs. But yeah, check us out. TheWeiliotisPodcast.com. That will tell you where we are. That will point you towards where our podcast is, where our YouTube is, pretty much where anywhere you find podcasts. And Weiliotis is not found anywhere else. So if you Google it, hopefully you don't pull up anything from Ray Liotta. But definitely Google Weiliotis, our Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. It's either Weiliotis Podcast or The Weiliotis Podcast. Follow us, message us, sponsor us.
Seriously. Hey, if you're listening to Blue Yeti,
And
I would love a sponsor. Send me
Yeah.
send me a new microphone. Send me some like a pop filter.
yeah,
Come on, send me some stuff.
yeah, that's all.
Yeah.
That's all we're asking for. But yeah, we're gonna do a lot more episodes this year. We're gonna try to go weekly. We're gonna have guests. We're gonna do just us. We're gonna do an Oscars edition pretty soon. I think we're gonna do like probably our predictions of the Oscars, and then maybe another episode after. Possibly we'll try to turn that into like a little social media game with
I'd
y'all
like to
too.
do that for sure.
Maybe we could do a bracket. Tom and I do a bracket every year. But yeah, we thank you for listening, and we're definitely going to try to get out some more episodes this year.
Yes,
And thank
absolutely.
you.
So as usual, thanks for watching, everyone. Until next time, take care. Bye.